Hey everyone, welcome to Monkey Business and all that. I just wanted to pop on before the episode starts to give a warning about the content we're going to be talking about today. We go over some very, very heavy topics, and we don't go super in depth, but they are talked about frequently and often. It's all contained from 1 hour exactly, so 60 minutes, to 2 hours and 12 minutes, so 132 minutes. If you'd like to skip all of that discussion that's going to be about heavy, heavy subject matter such as suicide, rape, and pedophilia, then just go on and skip on to the end of the episode, and you can listen out from there, and you'll be totally in the clear. Regardless of your decision, thank you so much for listening in. Hope you really enjoy it. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Monkey Business. Today it is yet again me and Joseph. What's up? How's it going?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good to be back, Joseph. Today we're gonna do another ranking video. We, over the last month or so, watched all of Yorgos Lanthimos's filmography. Not all of them, I should say. We watched
Pretty
five
much
of his
all of them.
films, his four most recent, and one. Did we watch five or six?
Five.
Five. His four most recent and one other popular one he's done. We didn't watch Alps or Canetta because we didn't feel like it slash didn't have time. Maybe we'll get to him one day, but today is not that day. So, to all zero of you who have seen Alps and Canetta, I apologize. Just quick intro thoughts, Joseph. You hadn't seen any of his films? No, you had. What do you
Seen
think about Yorgos Lanthimos as a director?
I had seen The Lobster before we started
Okay.
all this. Wait, had I? Actually, I don't think I had seen. Oh no, I watched one of his short films, yeah. But I hadn't like watched any of his movies before this. But very I'll say about Lanthimos. A very there's always like when you watch a movie, it's gonna be unlike anything you've ever seen before. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I that's great. That yeah, uniqueness is one of his biggest attributes. They're just so out there and so yeah, just unique. They're unlike anything you've ever seen. It's hard to watch one of his movies and then say, "Oh, that was just like this other movie," because there's
Mhm.
really there's nothing to compare it to, really,
Yeah.
except other Lanthimos movies. It's wild. It's very cool. I think he's a great director. I think he's just getting better and better. So it's been cool to watch. A lot of people say he's one of the greats of modern times, and I'm almost there, agreeing with that opinion.
I would of this generation, maybe I put him top 10. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think he could be top 10.
I think with Poor Things he might be. Yeah.
Um, we were debating on whether or not to do a ranking or just go in order, and we both kind of deduced that our rankings are very, very close to the order of when the movies were released. So we're just gonna start with our fifth place, our 2009 released film from Lanthimos, and that is Dogtooth, right?
Dogtooth.
This is your
Yeah.
fifth, right, Joseph?
This is my fifth. Yeah.
This is my fifth. Okay. Thoughts on Dogtooth?
Ah, I'm- I don't. I didn't like it. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't like it. It's just it's just weird. Like, but like even for Lanthimos, like it's just strange. Like no names are given to the characters. They're in this like big house with walls, not allowed to leave. It's like it's it's kind of like abuse, but at the same time they're like being trained almost in a way.
Yeah, it's
It's just
abuse.
weird.
I mean, they're being trained, and the training is abuse, I would argue. What I should have done is give a little premise. So, Dogtooth is about. So, Yorgos Lanthimos is a Greek dude. He's a Greek director, and he's transitioned to American films over the past few years. But this movie is in Greek, and it's supposedly an allegory for um Greek politics, and so like that might be a reason it really keeps me and Joseph at arm's length. It's weird in a way that doesn't make you invested. It just makes you kind of just weirded out. But yeah, the premise is that a father and a mother have three children, and they have kept them inside their house their entire lives. They have gaslit them into thinking that the world is not the way it seems, that things on the outside of their property are evil. They teach them that words have different meanings, that the word for like, sky like means water, or like salt means like a knife, or just random examples, but weird things just to totally and completely have control over their children at every turn so that they have to um just fully rely on their parents and be completely petrified of doing anything against their will.
They're gaslighting, they're gatekeeping, and they're girl bossing.
And they are girl bossing for sure. Yeah, and it's a big problem is that you just don't care about anyone in the movie, like because none of the characters have names. There's no one to really get invested in. It's very repetitive. One thing I'll argue, one thing I'll try to remember to bring up later is that I think Poor Things is very, very similar to Dogtooth in certain ways. And I'll get into why Poor Things works and why this doesn't when I get to
Yeah,
Poor
I
Things.
would agree with that actually.
Yeah, I I've seen Dogtooth twice now for some reason because I watched it first and then I watched it to rewatch it because I was hoping that on a rewatch I would like it more, that I would actually um, you know, come around and enjoy it, but I didn't. It's only 90 minutes long, and one of the reasons it's only 90 minutes long is because there's just not enough story to tell. They they wanted to make it a feature-length film, not a short film, but it just
Mhm.
feels drug out because of that. There's like 40 to 50 minutes of story here, and there's just a extra, you know, 40 minutes added on of just like of just nothingness, and it gets quite boring after a while because there's no tension and there's no story. It's just a bunch of wacky situations that the characters are put in, and they see how they react, how these characters who have no knowledge of the real world react to those situations, and doesn't, it just loses you after a while.
Yeah, they're told like they're like man-eating cats outside the walls too. That's why they
Yep.
don't go in. But yeah, it's just I don't know. It's you're not really ever like super interested in it after like the first 20 minutes. And then they like they like get on their knees and like bark like dogs too.
Yeah, to get
It's
away, because
weird.
they're told cats are evil and cats are dangerous. And they're like, all right, everyone learn how to bark like a dog. And it's like,
And they like lick each other too.
yeah, it's very strange.
It's
Um,
strange.
Yorgos is like famous for his comedy, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm not too on board with his sense of comedy. It's it's at negative levels here in Dogtooth, and and in movies like Killing of a Sacred Deer and The Lobster even, I don't find them too funny, even though people say they're, hysterical.
Yeah, I
It's
think
just
Poor Things is
weird,
the only one I
twisted,
like.
dark comedy that I I quite like that style of comedy at times, but I
Mm.
I just don't buy it a lot with him. I don't know. Do you? Do they
Yeah,
make
no,
you laugh?
none of his movies made me laugh except for Poor Things. Maybe like a few times, but not in Dogtooth though.
Okay. Yeah, nothing in Dogtooth is that great.
Yeah.
Unfortunate, because in theory this could be a great movie about being homeschooled, but kind of drops the ball on that. I would not recommend it at all.
I'd rather watch David Lynch's short film of a dead mouse getting eaten by ants again than watch rewatch this.
I would too, just because it's shorter, and I freaking hate that stupid dead mouse ant thing. Watch the Disc of Sorrow be installed, everyone.
Disco Star.
That's the good one.
But
Watch him cook quinoa. That's great.
quinoa, that's a good one too.
Hmm.
Yeah. Or Fire. I don't know if you've seen that one, but that one was pretty cool.
I don't think so. I might have to check it out though.
But yeah, for Dogtooth, I gave it a 4.
Okay, I give it a 4 too. So not a good movie. So chronologically, his next would be The Lobster, but that'd be
Yes.
2015. But if we jump to 2017, that's going to be our number 4 pick, right?
Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Yep. So at number 4, we both have Killing Every Sacred Deer. This is a retelling of like a story in Greek mythology, I think. Like for like it's set like today. It's a weird story of Barry Keoghan, who's just a strange little spaghetti eater. He kind of wreaks havoc on Colin Farrell's life in some very bizarre ways.
Yeah, 'cause it's like um Colin Farrell, he's like a doctor, and like he was like the surgeon that was supposed to save Barry Keoghan's dad after a car crash, but the surgery didn't succeed. So Barry Keoghan's dad died, and now he's like Barry Keoghan comes into Colin Farrell's life, and he's like, now you're gonna have to give one of your family members' lives to make everything equal again.
Essentially, he says if you don't kill a family member, then all of your family members will die. That's the premise, and it just kind of rolls from there.
And also, I kind of feel like he kind of gave him like a out earlier on. I felt like for like a chance to replace his dad when like he invited him over to like watch the movie, and then with the mom, I feel like he was trying to get him to like replace his dad, and then he didn't, and then that's why that happened.
Very true. Yeah, he wants his mom and Colin Farrell to get together and become his parents, kind of. But
Mhm.
Colin Farrell, being married, obviously doesn't do this.
Yeah.
Um, and so then the torture kind of starts. This one's just wild. It's I think this might take the cake for most disturbing Lanthimos movie, in my opinion, just because of how brutal it is. It's just relentless. It's pretty good. It's just very hard to pin down like what it's even about, what it's even trying to say. I've seen it 3 times now. I don't know why. I've returned to it quite often for some reason. It has intrigued me. I'm not gonna lie. There's just horror elements to it. There's thriller elements to it. There's
Mhm.
weird fantasy stuff, and it's all delivered in his uh you know monotone, deadpan, dry dialogue style, where
Like a
people
lot of
just they
dialogue.
barely emote. They just kind of stand there and read their lines in a very monotone way. It's strange and it's off-putting, and it's at times very distant and hard to connect with. But overall, I think this one
Mhm.
works. I think I like this one quite a bit. It's a major jump from Dogtooth to this.
Yeah, I do think it's a jump from Dogtooth to this. I'm not huge on it. I did read after that, like you're saying, it's based on like a Greek mythology story, but like I didn't know that before. So
Mm.
like I usually I'm able to like see the meaning behind most of his commentary, but I didn't find anything really that meant anything to me about this, and I wasn't really attached to any of the characters. I do think it's better than Dogtooth though.
And even like I mean, I did the first time I saw it, I didn't know it was a Greek myth, but you know, you read that it is, and even after you like realize that it's a Greek myth, like it doesn't add much to it. It's like okay, it's just a telling of this story. And it's
Yeah.
like, what is even the moral of the original Greek myth? Like, what is it trying to get across? Like, what is the message here? It's just, it's just nuts. It's just hard to
Mhm.
wrap your mind around. One thing I did get from this viewing is that I think it has to do maybe a little bit. It's obviously about a family like imploding on each other, but one thing I picked up on is I think it might be about how fathers have too much power because Colin Farrell is the doctor. He's, it's a incredibly uh, wealthy family. The father is the breadwinner. He does like all the surgeries and stuff. It's implied that he's maybe a little reckless at times, not at times, but at least once with surgery. He might have showed
Mhm.
up drunk to do open heart surgery, and there's just it. He's the one given the choice. It's him to decide to kill a family member, and this turns all the family members against each other. They're trying to, plead for his mercy in weird, kind of, subtle ways to not, show that they're trying to gain favoritism, but they're trying to gain favoritism. The daughter has a weird monologue, how like she apologizes to her dad about certain things, and the son, like who's debating about what he wants to be when he grows up for most of the movie, eventually says he wants to be a cardiologist like his father, and he's trying to make his dad happy and saying, I want to be a cardiologist like you. So, he's like saying, please spare me, essentially.
And he like cuts his own hair because his dad wanted him to get a haircut.
Yep. His dad hates his hair, so towards the end he cuts his hair and he's like, I cut my hair for you, dad. All this to show that like it's just odd that someone is given this much power and no one questions it and people are suffering severely for it. I don't know. That might be something he's going for. Speaking of hair, there's a lot of weird stuff with hair that supposedly means something because Barry Keegan's talking about his armpit hair and he asked Colin Farrell if
Yeah,
he can
yeah,
see his armpit
like
hair.
a like hair on his chest and armpits. I don't know.
Yeah, it's and then
Kind of weird.
the hair issue is a big thing for him. And there's one other thing with hair, but there's a lot of hair stuff in this. It's very weird. I don't know why. Could not tell you. That's just another thing that it's like I don't know what this movie is trying to get across. That docks its enjoyment a little bit for me, I think. Whereas the top three are not like I don't want to say obvious, but like they have a clear thing that they're trying to get across and they're understandable more so.
Yeah, I would just say if you want to watch a movie with Barry Keoghan being manipulative, just watch Saltburn. I wouldn't really
Okay.
recommend this one, but I do think it's okay though. I gave it a 6.
Would I recommend this? The first time I saw it, I hated it. The second time I saw it, I kind of came around, and the third time I saw it, I think I've solidified my opinion. I have it in an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. It's it's good. It's a weird little thriller. It's not something I'd say rush to see. It's not something I would even highly recommend, but it's a good movie. But I would say the next three are priorities, I think.
Yeah,
If you're
I like
gonna,
all the next three.
yeah. So let's move on to that. What is your third?
The Lobster.
Okay. My third is also The Lobster. So going back 2 years to 2015, this was Lanthimos' first English language movie. It stars Colin Farrell and Rachel Weisz, two of his regulars. It got really popular. This kind of made his career blow up. It's very strange, but it's kind of dystopian. So the way the dialogue, I mean, and the delivery is very strange and very flat, but it works because it's set in the future in kind of an alternate world, I guess, where if you are single, you are sent to a hotel and you have 40 days to find a match, find a partner. And if you're unable to do so, they turn you into an animal of your choosing. The main commentary is our society's obsession with relationships, romantic relationships. So, thoughts on the lobster?
Thoughts on the Lobster. Well, when the lady killed his dog, I was so mad. I was so
Yeah,
mad. But
that's
I was like, she's got to go right now. But and he listened to me, thankfully. But and he dealt with her. But also in a way, I saw that like he kind of did that to himself because he pretended to be somebody that he wasn't, like careless and heartless, so he could be in a relationship with this just evil, heartless woman. Yeah, so like he's not innocent. Like it's pretty much his fault that didn't she also like say she killed his brother or something like that?
because his brother was the dog.
Oh,
His
oh,
brother
okay.
got turned into a dog. Colin Farrell's brother got turned into a dog, and Colin Farrell was taking care of the dog who was his brother. And when he gets married, by pretending to be this cold, uncaring, heartless person so he could match with this cold, uncaring, heartless woman. The woman wants to kind of test him, and so she kills the dog. Yeah, and that's it's one of the most it's one of the hardest things to stomach in maybe any movie I've ever seen, man. It is sad. And then he obviously tries to keep himself together, but he goes to the bathroom and like lets out a little whimper and a little cry, and then she like catches him and is like, I'm gonna turn you in, you're faking it. And he's like, no, no, please. But because if you fake it, it's major punishment. They're gonna turn him into a lobster because that's what he picked. He picked to be a lobster.
Then the employee kind of
Yeah,
helps him
one of
kill her.
the um one of the workers at the hotel kind of helps him to escape, conspires, and they tranquilize the lady before he gets turned in, and they turn her into an animal. They don't say which one, but they turn her into something.
It's kind of
And
sad.
then so that's the first half of the movie, and then he escapes to the woods, and the second half of the movie begins. So it's a two halves to the story. It's first half, Colin Farrell's at the hotel and he makes friends and he tries to find a match and tries to play along with the whole game that this society wants him to. And the second half, after he does play along and kind of fails, he succeeds at getting away and he goes to the forest and he joins up with the loner group. And the loners are people that are outside of the society. They don't want to be in relationships
They're like the exact opposite almost.
pretty much. They don't have rules. They say you can do what you want and you're free in the woods. We're all working together as a society, but there's absolutely no romantic relationships. Yeah. So that's where Colin Farrell escapes to, and that's where he meets Rachel Weisz.
And I did think both Colin Farrell and Rachel Weisz were great in this.
Yeah, they do give great performances. Rachel Weisz is just awesome. She does the voiceover for the entire film, which is a really cool decision I like because she does the narration even from the, opening minutes to the very end, and even though she's only on screen as a character for the second half of the film because she's a loner, lives in the woods. He doesn't meet her until he goes into the woods and they all meet each other. After, kind of socializing, they don't socialize much. They mostly just stay, in their own thing. The first thing they do is they dig their own grave because they say, we're not going to dig your grave for you. Everyone is individualistic. We all do stuff for ourselves. So we will drag you in and lay you in it in the hole, but we will not dig a grave for you. So make sure if you dig that. People have to catch their own food. They're not allowed to like help each other with medicine or anything, which Colin Farrell needs. And so that is a detriment to him. While living in the woods, he meets Rachel Weisz and they start to form a bond and they start to fall in love eventually. And this, would have worked. And because one of the big things about the movie and about the hotel is that you have to find someone with a similar trait as you. It's
Yeah.
not like actually two people like, having common ground and forming a bond over that. It's stupid things. Like two people are a couple because they both sing well. Two people are a couple because their noses bleed. And everyone has a defining characteristic pretty much, and they're looking for the, defining characteristic about that. One lady really likes cookies, and so she's trying to find someone that likes cookies a lot. The one lady, as I said, is very cruel, and Colin Farrell fakes being cruel so that he can, you know, marry her and get out of the hotel alive. Colin Farrell's defining attribute is that he's nearsighted, and he figures out that Rachel Weisz is nearsighted too. So even though like he gets away from this, he finds out that he does have something that in common with someone, and they bond over this, and they start to say, hey, maybe we want to get away from this society that we fled to get away from the first society. And so they try to hatch a plan to get away.
Yeah, and I feel like with the lady that killed his brother, his dog,
Mhm.
um, I feel like that was kind of like commentary on that like bad things might happen, but most of the time the victim is not completely innocent.
There's a great scene where they go and the loners they kind of raid the hotel in order to just disrupt relationships and to just kind of show that, it's both you're fighting back and forth because the hotel they run around the woods a lot and try to shoot down the loners. And they're just attacking each other's way of life and belief system. Colin Farrell goes to a friend who also faked a trait to get in a relationship, and get out of the hotel alive, tells his wife that he was lying and disrupts their relationship. One of the best scenes in the movie is what's her name? Leah Seydoux, who's the leader of the loners. I don't know how to say her name. It's French. Sorry. But but she's great in it. Has this just how would you describe her? I don't know. Like
Um, like you can tell she's a leader,
yeah.
kind of controlling, but also not.
Yeah, very controlling about getting people to be their own person, like to a
Mhm.
very absurd and unhealthy degree. She's very rigid and very a very cold person. You can kind of see, I don't know. I've seen this a few times, and like each time I watch it, I really feel like she like Colin Farrell and like maybe most of the people that are in the loner group like is kind of cracking and really isn't fully convinced that their lifestyle is working because she implies that she is quite lonely and really has feelings for one or two other people in the group. But she doesn't, she is very calculated as to not let anyone else
And
see
when they
these
like
things.
when they visit her parents, they have to like fake that they're in relationships so they can get into town and get supplies and stuff.
Yep, they go into towns and stuff to get supplies, and they always go in pairs of two because in that, the society that runs the world, if you don't have a partner with you at all times, and if you don't have like a license that you are not single, then they'll arrest you and send you to a hotel. So they gotta fake all that stuff. And yeah, Colin Farrell and Rachel Weisz go as a couple. Lea Seydoux yells at them and breaks them up, like as a way to implying that like, you guys are going too far. You're supposed to be faking it for these people. You're not supposed to actually be together. And then it kind of appears that there's a little bit of jealousy there. Where were we? The raid on the hotel, going all the way back to that. One of the best scenes in the film, as I was going to say, is when Seydoux gives a gun to the hotel manager. So the two people that run the hotel, because everything is twos, is husband and wife. So they tie up the wife and they give a pistol to the husband and they say, well, they ask the husband, they say, which one of you could live alone? And then the husband says, It's me. I could live alone. I could do it. And they give him a gun and they say, okay, shoot her or we'll shoot you. And he pulls the trigger. Like he thinks about it for a long time and he's like, pondering over, obviously. But he pulls the trigger and there's no bullets in the gun. So he fired a blank at his wife. And then they just leave. They
They just
walk
leave.
out.
Yeah.
And it's like it's just crazy because it's like, man, how do you come back from that? And that's just exposing the stupidity of people and like these people that are all in relationships because they, think they're compatible. They're all just as self-centered and self-focused and want to, it's just about self-preservation. They're like, I don't want to die.
Mhm.
I'm going to shoot my partner when it comes down to it because there's no actual love there. But on the other hand, in the loner society, when there is love, it's really stamped out in the way that Colin Farrell and Rachel Weisz's story ends. So spoilers for The Lobster, as I mean, we've, kind of spoiled it a bit already, but major spoilers now. Do you want to explain the end, Joseph?
Yeah, so the leader she sends Rachel Wise to go get surgery for her to like she says it's gonna cure her nearsightedness,
Hmm.
but it actually makes her go blind. And so the ending scene is Colin Farrell. I actually can't remember if
Well,
he
Rachel Weisz comes back and says she has to tell Colin Farrell that she's blind.
yeah.
This was after they've planned their escape, so now they're like, what are we gonna do?
Mhm. So I don't actually remember if he cuts his eyes or if he walks out.
Well, that's the great thing about it. Like, so they do end up escaping. They leave the loner society and they go into the city and they're like, all right, we're a couple now. We're gonna try this. And he's like, well, I have to go blind. Because there's the only way to live in this society is to be partnered over some obscure thing about themselves. And it was nearsightedness, but now that she's blind, they're gonna draw attention to themselves and be arrested potentially if he isn't blind as well. The final scene is he takes a knife and he goes into the bathroom and he's just contemplating whether or not he's going to cut his eye. And it cuts back to Rachel Weisz out there sitting at the table just waiting for him, and it holds on her for like 2 minutes, and you're just waiting for him to come back or for something to happen, and nothing happens, and you're left to just decipher for yourself whether or not he's going to plunge a knife into both of his eyes. Crazy stuff over how our society has very, very messed up views on relationships.
Definitely, definitely.
Anything else to say about this one?
I think I think all of the next three have like a lot of substance to them more than um Killing of a Sacred Deer and Dogtooth. Yeah, I mean I think this one's pretty good. I have it at an 8.
I have The Lobster at a 9 out of 10. Unfortunately, I've kind of fallen out of love with this movie. I used to have this at a 10 out of 10. I used to think it was an absolute masterpiece, and it just didn't hit as hard this time around for some reason. I just didn't think it was as deep as I used to think it was. I don't know. And this was I rewatched Dogtooth and I rewatched this, and that had me really, really worried because I was like, oh no, what am I gonna think about the others? But I still think this is a great movie. I still highly recommend it. As we said in the intro, there's nothing like it, and
Mhm.
it's a great experience. I think everyone should see it. 9 out of 10.
Definitely.
Still pretty good.
Definitely recommend this.
Yes, me too, for sure. Dogtooth, Killing of a Sacred Deer, The Lobster, and this is where um our lists, our rankings, no longer sync up. At number two, we'll talk about what we'll talk about in a second. At my number two, and at Joseph, what's your number two?
My number two is The Favorite.
Cool. My number one is The Favorite, and this movie came out in 2019, 2018, 1 year after Killing of a Sacred Deer. This film, in my opinion, is a masterwork. It is just perfection incarnate. I rewatched this and I kind of already felt that way about it, but I was just blown away to levels I didn't know I could feel about a movie when I rewatched it recently.
Mhm.
It's just one of my all-time favorite movies. It's probably top 10. It might be top 5. It's hard to say.
Wow.
I
Top
think
five.
this film is just generation defining. It is one of the best works of art of the 21st century. I cannot recommend this enough. To get in why I like it so much, I think this is one of the best looks and dissections of power dynamics that has ever been put to film. I think this is the phrase, it's lonely at the top, incarnated in movie form. And I mean that in the most dreary, disheartening, and depressing way possible. One thing I said about Lanthimos, and we both kind of said, is that his comedy doesn't click with me. He didn't write this movie, he just directed it, and
Yeah.
it's probably his best directed film. It's either this or Poor Things. It's very, very close. He directs this so well, and his directing style combined with this script is hysterical. And this is an incredibly dark and depending on which character you're following, it's a very, very depressing movie, but it is hilarious. Like I it makes me crack up every time. It is so funny in ways that like the delivery is very, very similar to The Lobster and Killing of a Sacred Deer, but there's a lot more humanity in this. The actors are able to emote a lot more. One of the big things is that this isn't set in some sort of weird like fantasy-esque timeline. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's fictional. I don't think any of these characters actually existed, but it's a
I
period
heard
piece.
that it was based on real events.
Really? I
Yeah.
don't. It might be. It might be. Queen Anne was a real queen, but yeah,
Mhm.
it's a period piece during the 18th century, 1700s in England about the queen and one of her advisors and her cabinet and a new servant essentially that comes to the palace and
Emma
tries to
Stone.
make a life for herself. Yep. It stars Olivia Colman, Rachel Weisz, Emma Stone as the newbie, and also a couple other cast members that are all incredible. It's just it's shot so well with it's in a crazy cool looking palace with just lighting shining through the windows, a lot of candlelight scenes, tons of bizarre angles. It started with this movie, like he never puts the camera in the same place twice. Like it
Yeah.
moves so fast and it's so interesting because he's able to just make every scene just very, very energetic. It's disorienting when it needs to be disorienting, and it's also very, very intense when it needs to be intense. Um, but back to what I was saying, this is the story of Queen Anne, who's just it, she is a woman with like 4 or 5 mental disorders, and she needs help and she needs friends. And the last thing she needs is groups of people or individual people all fighting for her acknowledgement and her support. and her trust as a
It's
ruler.
like a rare skin condition too.
Yeah, but that's given that she is the Queen of England. That is what she is forced with. This position is thrust upon her, and she cannot get out of it. And it's just about how stupid so many societal norms are.
Mhm.
Mainly the monarchy at this time and a lot of England's political structure. But you can tie so many things into today in ways that I think tie in better than even the lobster.
Yeah, just kind of pick up on that.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the film, like her rabbits that were like they represent like her failed pregnancies, I think.
Yeah, she has, I think, 17 rabbits, and it's one for each child that's she's either miscarried or stillbirthed.
Yeah, and so at the start of the film, they're all in cages, and then by the end, they're free roaming around the room.
Hmm.
But and then that brings a question like, were they taken care of better before when they were still in cages, or afterward when they're out of cages? And it shows eventually in the end, it kind of makes the point that they were more safe when they were in the cages because Emma Stone's character steps on one to kind of show that she was just using Queen Anne to become her favorite and get the power that comes with that. It's just something to take note of in life too, I guess, in that sometimes having the most freedom isn't the most important thing. What's important is having your peace. He just knows how to use commentary without like throwing it right in your face, but also make it so that you're still like aware of it.
It's stuff you have to look for and pick up on, and it really makes you think. But the movie is just about Rachel Weisz, who's her number one advisor, continually trying to win her favor and win more power for herself. And then Emma Stone comes along and she tries to do the same thing and tries to manipulate her way up. And she uses just she's much more open and loving appearingly on the surface. She never scolds the queen in the way that Rachel Weisz does, because Rachel Weisz has just been friends with the queen forever, and so she has, no filter. And like that's that's the major point of the movie. It's like, who loves the queen? Who actually has her best interests at heart? And depending on how you follow it, it's possible that you come away saying that no one does because of her position of power. It's impossible for an authority figure like this to be loved by anyone, because anyone who comes in contact with her is just going to try to make a better situation for themselves. Another way to view it is that Rachel Weisz really is the person that cared for her the most and that genuinely had a love for her. And it's conflicting because Rachel Weisz is a nationalist and a warmonger.
Or like you can tell she cared about the queen at
She
least a little bit.
does deeply care for the queen on a personal level. And even though she's, trying to fund the war and, get manipulate the queen, not really it's not really manipulation. It's just she's just pounding on her and saying, "You have to do this, you have to do this." And essentially she's running the kingdom, and the queen is just a much more gentler, kind-hearted person and is just folding under the pressure again and again. And it seems from on the outside, what Emma Stone sees is that, the queen doesn't like this, and that the the rabbits want to get out of the cage. And so that's what Emma Stone does, and when she's able to pull some of the queen's trust and some of the queen's favor away from Wise, she's able to get more power and go up the ranks, eventually become a trusted advisor to the queen. She is doing it fully and purely for her own interests, and does not have the queen's best interests at heart, and fully convinces the queen that she is one person when she's really another. Rachel Weisz sees through this when the queen doesn't, and Rachel Weisz tries to tell the queen of this in a very harsh and not loving way, and the queen doesn't like that about Rachel Weisz, and so that just creates more conflict and things spiral out of control. And it's all this is happening while they are eating fancy dinners, and they have, these big balls, and they have these elaborate dresses, while the people of the country are getting taxed into oblivion so that they can continue to fight France in a war that they've essentially won. And that's a big debate. Like, have they won the war against France? And they're like, well, yeah, we can sue for peace right now, and France will, they will oblige. And others are saying, no, we have to beat them one more time because if we beat them one more time, then France knows that, you know, we are in total control. If we sue for peace now, we look weak. This is a battle that rages back and forth in court in ways that range from hilarious to, disturbing. One thing I like about this that I kind of feel, I think the first time you watch this movie, Emma Stone is the main character because she's the audience surrogate. She arrives at the palace. She comes in as a servant, a low level, and she's
Yeah.
experiencing all these things, like, she's the audience. She goes through the palace and she tries to figure out all the information and she's learning about all the ways they do things. Um, and then second half, she kind of flips and you see where her story goes, and then you're kind of betrayed by her. The second time you watch this, I think Olivia Colman as the Queen is the main character
Mhm.
because you really see where she's coming from and how she's conflicted and how she's torn between these two people. You know where Emma Stone's journey is going to go, and you know how that's going to end, and you kind of feel for the Queen a lot more. Third time you watch this, I think Rachel Weisz is the main character, and
Wow.
I think maybe every other time you watch this, I think Rachel Weisz is the main character, and you see her as this person who is objectively evil in many ways, but is holding the kingdom together almost single-handedly in the way that the government is run. A monarchy, no,
Mhm.
no, no country should be a monarchy, but Rachel Weisz is kind of holding the kingdom together, and she's kind of holding the queen together. The queen who's just a very emotionally weak person and is given this role that just really hurts her psyche. And Wise is very borderline abusive, but always pulls back when she's at the line, I think. And so there are many scenes where Wise really lets her humanity show. When she's with the Queen, they do the wheelchair thing where they drive around the hallways. There's many times where she talks about, their past and their stuff, what they've done. They ride horses together. You can see the humanity in all the characters. Even Emma Stone has glimpses of it, but it's
Yeah.
it's the it's the dead the dynamic that they're in and the society that they're in where it's you have to fight people or you're going to be crushed like a rabbit, and that crushes all humanity potential, and that makes them into it turns everyone into monsters for the children to play with, as Wise would say.
And I don't know, I just felt like when watching it, there's just like I don't really know how to explain it. Just you just feel like what you're watching is important.
Yeah,
And so yeah, I thought it was a really interesting movie. And I think Emma Stone is great in it.
yeah, she is. Just
Character.
three incredible lead performances.
Yeah, yeah, everyone's great in it. Yeah. Yeah, I have this at 8.5, 8.5.
Okay, cool. This is 10 for me, obviously. Real quick, what do you think of the comedy in this? Do you find it funny?
Maybe a little bit. Yeah.
It's just it doesn't rely on like the weird like twisted humor. Like they're just constantly roasting each other. Like Wise is just roasting the queen constantly. She's always degrading Emma Stone. Emma Stone fires back a lot. It's very funny when they go to court and Nicholas Hoult is in the wig and the makeup and just does goofy stuff. They do like a break dance essentially like early in the movie where Rachel Wise and her partner just kind of do this little thing where they're throwing each other around on the dance floor. It's just goofy. It's just so funny. Some of my favorite lines in this, I wrote them down because they're just great. Like Emma Stone's father was killed in a fire. Lady Marlborough says when Emma Stone comes up and introduces herself, she says, "I always liked your father. He had charm to burn." And then I guess he did. When Marlborough is talking to the Queen, she says, she's pointing at a map and says, "So we're here," a map of the battle. And she says, "We're here, and the Austrians are here." And the Queen goes, "Which country is that again?" They go out and they shoot pigeons, and Wise says, "You're really doing damage to the sky." And
Oh
then Emma
yeah,
Stone says, "Can I ask you a question?" And then she fires back, "As long as you're aware I have a gun." And that's just the tip of the iceberg. This movie is so funny and so engaging, and I kind of recommend it enough. I love how it's silly things like the horses, they only walk in straight lines, and the camera just follows them either from the front or the back, and they just walk in straight lines forever. They don't turn. It's just like it's a weird detail that doesn't make any sense, but it's just so funny. It cracks me up. And then the first time you ever see a horse from the side is when Rachel Wise is drugged and vomits and passes out and falls off her horse. And then there's this really like darkly lit scene of her like getting dragged by the horse by the side. And it's almost like psychedelic with the fades and the stuff and they use. It's just
Mhm.
incredible. This scene with no dialogue, and then she comes back with a massive scar down her face. That's so funny. When there's the party, they have this big party because Emma Stone thinks she got rid of Wise, but then she just kind of just wanders back in, kind of just starts conducting a little bit, picks up a drink and wanders around, and they're all like everyone's there just like speechless, just waiting for the concert to end, just staring at her in fear. One thing Lanthimos does a lot is use slow motion. A lot it's okay in Lobster and Deer, but it really works here. Like the Queen has a like an armor suit up scene in slow motion, and it's just there's like this harpsichord music playing, and it's so goofy, but it's like it's really funny, and it's like kind of cool at the same time. It's so strange. This entire movie just it's one of those films that like it's on a short list of films. It just it draws out like thoughts and feelings and emotions that like you didn't know you had inside of you, and you're like, why does like harpsichord horse armor make me laugh? But it just does. What else do I have to say about this? My last thing would be like, who wins here? Who gets favor and gets what they want? Who do you think?
I think it's Emma Stone.
You think it's Emma Stone?
I do. Yeah.
It's very hard to say, and I would agree with you on the first watch, as I said, because Emma Stone is the main character on the first watch. I, after I've seen it, I think the Queen loses hard. She lost her only friend at the end, and she's stuck with this cabinet of fools and a manipulative assistant. Emma Stone gets her security because she gets married, becomes a lady again, but she's now forced to serve the queen and put on this smiling happy face that she's always wanted. She's always the queen is demands of her. And at the very end, the final shot before it fades to the rabbits is like it just sits on the queen's face for like again like the lobster, like 2 minute shot of her face. It's like the longest shot of the film. I guarantee it. It's a very, very quickly edited film. And it's at that moment I think that the queen is really started to see what Rachel Weisz has been telling her the whole film and starts to see that Emma Stone doesn't have a desire for friendship, just purely a desire for power. And Rachel Weisz, she gets away to France, and I think she wins. And I think she's on her way to recovery, possibly. Her letters get intercepted, and that's very, very unfortunate because the Queen is putting on a front that, Lady Marlborough isn't allowed back, but she's hoping and she's waiting for a letter. Emma Stone intercepts the letter that Rachel Weisz writes to her and burns it. And so the Queen is left thinking that she banished Rachel Weisz for good and that she doesn't want anything to do with her anymore. But um, Rachel Weisz really did write a letter and really did want to come back if it was possible, but due to things out of her control, she wasn't able to. But she and her husband get away to France. They kind of get out of the awful, awful situation that is the English political system. And so I think if anyone wins, I think it's Wise. I think Rachel Wise is the pigeon in this situation. I think there's rabbits and there's geese and there's pigeons. And because what Rachel Wise is shooting the entire film is the pigeons. And even like there's a weird scene like where they do their dance, not the break dance scene, but Emma Stone and the Queen are bonding and they're dancing together. And there's no audio of them. It's the audio is Rachel Wise yelling throw and the pigeons flapping their wings and her shooting him down. And she's just kind of stuck in that palace with the queen. But eventually, after the fade to rabbits and then the cut to black, they play Skyline Pigeon, the song. And I think it's talking about Rachel Wise. I think Rachel Wise gets out of it as clean as anyone's able to. Really, the moral of the story is that when you adhere to rules like this, it just gets in the way of humanity. This is a hilarious comedy tragedy.
Yeah.
Makes you laugh while you're watching it and makes you very sad after it's done.
I would. Yeah. I would agree with that.
12 out of 10 movie. Please, please watch it. Anything else? That was my long, extended thoughts on it. Apologies if that was
No,
boring, but I love this movie.
that was it.
8.5 and 8.5 for you.
Yeah, it's 8.5 for me, but I'll
Solid.
have to rewatch it sometime soon.
On to Poor Things.
On the Poor Things. Yeah.
Okay. So my number two is Poor Things. Joseph's number one is Poor Things.
Is my number one.
Initial thoughts, you wouldn't get anything out before Will comes on?
I'll just go. He always uses a dry style, but it really works when he uses it in comedy because it's such a good dark comedy.
Yeah.
There's only like the movie's like 2.5 hours long. There's only like maybe 10 total minutes that I wasn't laughing. We weren't laughing. It's so funny.
It is great. It might be his funniest. It's it's definitely his most ambitious in terms of comedy. Um, The Favorite makes me laugh just as much, just because I think that movie is so goofy. But this one is goofier on paper. You got Willem Dafoe, burping bubbles, crazy stuff like that.
The chicken dog.
Man, as soon as you see the goose dog walk across screen, like in the first 5 minutes, you're like, you know you're in for a ride, man. And then there's like a chicken dog, and what else is there? Like,
The guy that turns into a goat at the end.
yeah, the guy turns into a goat at the end because they put a goat brain in him. It's a great comedy. And yeah, as you said, his dry style works well in comedy. It works especially well when the comedy hits in stuff like The Favorite and Poor Things. Less so in Lobster and Deer.
Yeah, and I it's also adapted from a book.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, I think that helps him a lot. I think, yeah, I mean, as a director, to go back to our intro, I would consider him one of the greats. I just don't think he's as nearly as good of a writer, but he is
Mm.
like a phenomenal director. And you just have to watch Poor Things just to see how obvious that is. Insane things he pulls off. Again, the camera is never in the same position for two shots. Crazy stuff. He uses like weird, almost terrible CGI, but it works so well because it turns into this like impressionistic painting style thing with the skies and all. Incredible stuff. Why don't you give a recap of the premise or whatever?
Oh, there's just one more thing. I was gonna say,
Mhm.
so obviously they had to be like really comfortable with each other because they're all being like so free and stuff. They got to make it funny as a comedy, so obviously they got to be all comfortable around each other for scenes. But I was watching some of the actors on actors interviews. I don't know if
Yeah,
you watched any of those, but I was watching the one with Emma Stone and Bradley Cooper, and she said that instead of like rehearsal, they just do like 10 days of like theater games to like get more comfortable with each other. And then and they do like a lot of theater games and then they'll do like a little bit of the script and stuff when they're ready to shoot. And because Mark Ruffalo,
yeah,
he was saying like how nervous he was about the whole role.
understandably.
And apparently Willem Dafoe like pranked him because like Mark Ruffalo was so nervous and Willem Dafoe like brought Oscar Isaac on set and like they were gonna replace him.
That's great, dude.
But yeah, they did like the theater games, and then when Mark Ruffalo was really nervous, Yorgos Lanthimos went up to him. He's like, we've already done this. You know how to do it." And then that kind of just worked. And I think that's pretty cool that they do the theater games to get more comfortable around each other because it makes the movie feel more sincere, or not maybe not sincere, but like real.
Yeah, I get that.
It makes the performances better.
It does. Like there is no trace of nervousness in Ruffalo in this film. Like you
Mhm.
wouldn't think that at all. He's a nut. He's a crazy person. He is not someone you ever want to encounter in your life. And but he is hysterical in this movie. He might be the funniest character in the movie just because of that's hard to say. I mean, Bella's obviously the funniest character in the movie, but like he's almost quite as funny. Just the way he delivers lines in his goofy fake accent and his weirdo mustache, and he does his little tap dance thing. The dance scene is so funny.
The accent
Um,
is so good.
yeah, it is. But yeah, the movie like it takes place again in a weird alternate version of like Victorian England.
It's like a Frankenstein type world.
Yeah, but all the actors feel like they are their characters exactly. They feel perfectly at home in their roles. Ryan isn't on, so I'm going to say this. I'd like to apologize to Ryan, but I this is Lanthimos' most wholesome movie, believe it or not, in my opinion.
I don't know if I would say that. I feel like
I
The Lobster maybe a little more.
I think considering the endings of both the movies, I think that tips the scales to Poor Things being the most wholesome. I think it's very hopeful. I think it's
Yeah, the
very
ending is more wholesome. Yeah.
yeah. It's hopeful. It's about discovering yourself, discovering the people you love, finding a better way of life, learning from the mistakes of your past, and becoming a better person because of them. Very few other Lanthimos movies have been that cheerful. So despite all the stuff that we'll get into and that we would have gotten into
Yeah.
if Ryan was here, I think in a weird roundabout way, this is his most wholesome movie.
Yeah.
Nuts. Anything else to say before Will
I
comes
think it's
on?
his most I don't want to say it's his most lighthearted movie because it's not really a lighthearted subject matter, but
It's constantly funny, as you
yeah,
said,
yeah,
and that gives it the appearance of a lighthearted film, I think.
yeah.
So
Okay, so the synopsis is she's nothing like you've ever seen. Brought back to life by an unorthodox scientist, a young woman runs off with a lawyer on a whirlwind adventure across the continents. Free from the prejudices of her times, she grows steadfast in her purpose to stand for equality and liberation. And that is the synopsis of Poor Things.
so they say. Yep, brought back to life. Okay. And with that, we have a very, very special guest for you, and I'll be on in a second. Just initial reaction, Will. What are your initial thoughts on this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When do we start talking about initial thoughts?
Yeah, we're recording. Go for it.
Like right now.
Whoa. Okay, so
Say
my
what you want.
initial
Yeah,
initial thoughts are very it was very shocking, but it was also like very like you have to obviously look into it a little bit. It's like you can't just like it's obviously very shocking and the first thought is like what's going on, but I was like, okay, it could be like very, this is so deep, right? I'm gonna cry. This is so deep, right? The alarm just went off on my phone. So as I keep watching it, I'm like, okay, this is like I somewhat understand the premise. I mostly understand what's going on, and I think it was like very well done, almost. As in like the acting was pretty incredible, especially Mark
Yeah.
Ruffalo, I think. I guess Emma Stone, I don't know, like it's hard for me to determine that as incredible acting. I think probably is incredible acting, but for me it's hard to recognize that and being like, wow, that's like um
that's fair.
but
That's hard to
okay.
recognize.
Mhm.
Me and Joseph had discussed. We said Mark Ruffalo is just incredible,
Yeah.
For
and
sure.
but Will, I see your point. It took me a second watch to really understand her performance a lot because this movie really did blindside me the first watch. Um,
Yeah.
my first viewing, it's wild. It's just nuts. I said it's his most wholesome already, but it might be his least accessible. I think. I mean, obviously, Dogtooth is much less accessible, but of his English
Yeah.
language films, I think this is his least accessible. It's the one that like most people just are gonna walk out of for a good reason. You know,
Mhm.
it's it's not a thriller. There's no romance. It's not a period piece. It's just out there. It's just very, very strange in nearly everything it does. It's very hard to wrap your head around. In terms of what it's trying to get across, like you were saying, well, what do you think it's trying to say?
Okay, so like, as I'm not sure each tonal like little tonal detail, but the overall kind of swag was like like mostly just like like a feministic kind of thing about men. I guess the way men view women mostly. I think maybe, but also like taking advantage of women. I don't know, but uh, so I got a lot of those different tones and like I understood like most of them seeing it, but like I was one of those people like mid film just like about to walk out because like this is insane. So like okay, so as much as I understand those things, I was like it was so the movie itself was so wrapped up in its own okay. The way I'm gonna say it is that the movie itself was like it was so immersed in its plot, I guess, that like e even if the intention was to look at the bigger picture, it was not necessary the way it was needed to be portrayed. And that's not just all the unnecessary sex, because one could say there's too much unnecessary sex, which is fair, but you could also say that the sex wasn't unnecessary. I'm not sure why it would be necessary, but some could debate that possibly. But what I thought was just unnecessary was like the way I don't know necessarily, but the way it all occurred. Because obviously I think most people understand or would get like the big crazy thing here was like this is a child's brain and is like being manipulated and taken advantage of by all these men. But what I really was like, this is absurd, was the way it was like, this is a child's brain, and it like got into that, and then right like after that, I think it was like mostly just right after you find out it's a child's brain. I don't really quite remember, but I know that it wasn't like nothing of this happened before you find out it was a child's brain. When you find out it's a child's brain, and then like it like starts showing her naked, and then you get like really uncomfortable. I at least like got really uncomfortable because I was like, that's like it. Even though this is like an adult body, like it's not okay. Like it doesn't feel right at all. And like I'm sure that's like possibly the point, but at the same time, like it wasn't brought to enough attention that it's not okay. I feel like, and it wasn't the the I guess not necessarily bad guys, but the people doing the bad things in the film weren't portrayed in a negative enough light for it to be like justified, almost to justify to make the film, almost like the film. Such a little man. Um, so like
Little man.
the okay, so it has these themes, like heavy themes of like of rape and pedophilia, and the people committing the acts in the movie are almost like it's almost all of them, and they're almost some of them are portrayed as like insane, and some of them are portrayed as, you know, these are maybe like almost regular people, and they're just people and or men doing their things. Like this is not as much as like it is like an interesting, I guess, work on feminism. Like the average man is not a pedophile, which is true. Like, but there is a lot of messed up societal things like with young women. I understand that. It's just it's just absurd to it's just almost like an absurd movie to even make and not emphasize the wrongs so as much. I think the biggest example I think I have of this is the guy, the doctor, I think. Okay, so the um God's helper, the doctor
Willem
who
Dafoe.
comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not William
His
Dafoe, the
helper.
guy, yes, the guy with the curly
Candles.
hair.
Yeah.
Candles. So Candles, the entire film, I thought, at least in my impression of it, was I'm sure that it's not quite that, but my impression of Candles that they were trying to portray was he's almost the more innocent one. He's kind of an innocent one, and he's just there living his life, and he's almost trying to do Bella good. Maybe he doesn't know how to do Bella good, but he's almost trying to help Bella or something like that, or he's a little bit more innocent. But in the first place, he falls in love with a child, and I feel as though that was not emphasized enough. And then at the end, he wants to still get married to this child, and it's like he's like, oh, like it's okay, like I don't care that you were a prostitute, which is cool, but like you are still in love with a child, and you did fall in love with a child, and then he like ends up with the child. Like at the end, he's like one of the, I guess, quote unquote good guys. I don't know, but there's that scene at the end where the dude's a goat, that was pretty great. The
Different
dude's the
dude is a
dude,
goat. Yeah.
as in not greatest of all time, but a literal goat, and and she is sitting on the porch with um with Who was it her like the maid, I think? The maid's chilling there.
No, it's
And
with
then
her girlfriend and with her husband.
Yeah, but
yes, yes.
it was
And they've
like the
got
maid and the second
and the maid is
bellman,
The
there
right?
maid
too. Yes, and
the
they've got a
maid is
duck
there,
dog and they've got a goat.
which that was cool. But the husband is still there, and it's like he gets no consequences for his actions that are still that he's still committing, I thought, throughout the entire movie. Like it just never addressed the fact that he fell in love with a child. And I thought that was insane. I thought it had to have realized that. Like it's not like they were like they just didn't they forgot that he fell in love with a child. But it's like it wasn't at all. I thought at least I was waiting for it the entire movie for it to be addressed a little bit more. Maybe that wasn't a great thing that he did. I don't know. Okay, that was my, I guess, official. That was my official negativity about the movie. Mostly, I think I've been looking for
Mm.
some defense for it.
Will, I think it was incredible insight. Great points to bring up. Great little monologue you got there. Thanks for your input. I'm going to respond to
Thank
it,
you.
Joseph. Hopefully you can pick up on the little you missed. Essentially, to start out, I will say I think the movie needed 80% less sex.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Flat out. I
Right.
I think
Yeah.
it's too much. I think it's disgusting. I think it was way too overt. And
Right.
I've defended plenty of it in the past, in other movies. Like
Right.
we had our Oppenheimer discussion, and Will was furious during
Right.
that.
Right. Of course.
And I said I think it could have done with two out of the three sex scenes. I think one was unnecessary, but I think two were fine.
Right.
Mhm.
I think this
Yeah.
one is goes way too far.
Yeah.
It's awful. The one there's stuff you can do with it. Like she needs money. She goes to a prostitute house and she says, "You can make money here," just as inquiring. And then they go, and then the head's like, "Yeah, sure." And then she's like, "How?" And then she tells her, she's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
sure," because she's just like she's never encountered that before. She's like, "All right, why not?"
Right.
And because she's told it's the quickest way to money, and she gets room and board with it. And you can
Mhm.
do that, and you can imply that without going to the lengths they did. It goes way too far in certain situations. One thing I think is that because Yorgos has used sex in the past and other things, and he's used it
Yeah.
very poorly in many cases, and he's used it well in certain cases.
I
I think
believe. I believe that.
one thing I think is that above all, Yorgos Lanthimos thinks that sex is funny.
Oh, I was about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he
Keep going.
Yes,
definitely did. Because
and
like the guy
yeah,
that was crawling around.
yeah, okay. So like
Mhm.
me and Joseph had a long conversation about our thoughts on his
Yeah.
comedy, so we won't get too into that. But in
Okay.
terms of sex being funny, I just I don't think 80% of this is funny. I think how much funnier would the guy crawling around like Smeagol butt naked be if you hadn't been so hit over the head with the other naked
Yeah.
dudes the entire time. That'd been so random and so bizarre. That'd been that'd been hysterical. But you've seen it, and it's doing all in like this montage succession type of thing. It's like it's hard to. It was funny, don't get me wrong, because the dude looks like Smeagol with his eyes, bro. But like it didn't really hit the same. And I think
Mhm.
Lanthimos really dropped the ball there. I think the stuff with Mark Ruffalo is just too much. I think the one scene is where she's showing the tattoos on her legs. I think that's kind of great because that just
Mm.
shows that Ruffalo is just an evil person and is just
Yeah.
really trying to control her. And she's like,
Right.
"No, look, I got a tattoo here and I got a tattoo here. Isn't that cool?" And he flips out. And
Right.
he's
Right. Yeah. No,
hysterical when
I
he
agree
flips
with
out.
that
I think that's a
actually.
great scene. Yeah, there's the scene where when it's still in black and white when it's early on and she does the you know
Yeah.
what. Um
Mm.
Mhm.
and I think it just lasts too long. I think it could have been a 5 second scene. It would have worked. Then she could have
Mm.
said, she could have still made the joke to the mistress. She said, "You're sad all the time, but I can make you happy. I know how to. I know how to make you happy
Right.
whenever you want. I figured this out." Funny stuff. Overall, that's my biggest flaw with the movie. In
I think.
Mhm.
defense of what you said about
Mhm. Well, wait,
candles.
while we're on the sex is funny thing, I have one more thought about that too.
Go for it.
If because this will be kind of quick, but okay, so I think that probably could and has used like sex in an effective way and maybe even a funny way.
Mhm.
But with this, I feel that was one of the most messed up parts is that the sex in this, even if it had have been funny, even if there was like barely any and it was just that crawling dude, it shouldn't. Like it literally like there's no other way for me to say it as in like it shouldn't be funny in this. I think that that is like just kind of straight up mess up. To turn like that kind of sex into humor is insane. Like because that is just straight up like pedophilia and then
I
but it's not making a joke about pedophilia. It's involving pedophilia and then there's just this joke to like almost distract from the pedophilia, which is insane, I think personally. Okay, you go now. Sorry.
I feel like didn't she like age to the point where
That's the thing. Yeah,
I
first
think
off,
I I think
yeah.
she aged. I don't think she aged nearly to a point where she's mature enough to make any decision
yeah,
like that. I think
definitely
she
not. But I
might
feel
have been
like
a teenager. I think she was like 9 or like 8 or 9, maybe younger. And then like during the prostitution, she was probably like 13, 14. Like
what she
she
was like in college by the time of prostitution though, so I feel like she had to be like
No, no. So what when she gets the infant brain stuck in her adult body, Defoe says that her brain is aging incredibly fast and she ages like 50 times the speed of a normal person because her brain is trying to catch up to what her body's age actually is. And it's all, like fake science. It's not, how
right.
things could work,
But
obviously. But in doing that, she's definitely easily in her 20s when she meets Mark Ruffalo, and she's probably in her late 20s when she goes to the prostitution thing.
but her brain if we're going along with that science,
Yeah.
then it wouldn't matter because her brain would be just as vulnerable as a child if it was trying to catch up the entire time. It wouldn't be able to take in the same kind of like emotional maturity at all
Why not?
because
I think that's the point of the movie that
she
she's taking in
obviously
all the stuff and she's growing up as she goes along.
she's growing up, but like you could say that she's maybe in her 20s by then, but like just this watching her actions and her emotions, she doesn't act 20 at all, which is like somewhat of like a like tell like this like she's not she's extremely basically like just extremely vulnerable like even if even if she is 20 like in like the movie somehow science wise, which
Hmm.
obviously it's like fake science and like that makes sense, but like it's like she's still if you're going along with that science, she is still portrayed as just as vulnerable as a child. I feel as though the whole movie, I think she's portrayed as just as vulnerable as a child,
I don't
and
think so.
doesn't have the decision making skills at all
I,
as
I
an
think I would
adult
agree
or
with the
even teenager.
decision making. They obviously the prostitution she goes into, they take advantage of her needing
Hmm.
money and a place to stay. But I feel like as her decision making is the only vulnerable thing.
I think her
Possibly.
decision making doesn't come from her immaturity. It comes from her lack of experience. And as she gets more experience as she goes on the journey, she becomes much more in control of things. And I think she has much more authority over the situations that she's in than all of her companions that go along with her in different stages of her journey. That really became evident to me the second time I watched it. It's her that decides to go here and here and here. The only really thing that happens to her is she gets kidnapped and taken to the boat against her will. But there's no struggle. She just gets out and she's like, okay, I'm on the boat now. Let's go do stuff. And the people that are around her are always trying to catch up to her. They're always behind her and her curiosity and her decision making, I feel. Most are trying to stop her, some are trying to understand her, but she's the one that's going along with things.
Okay, yes, but what kind of person does that replicate? Like that replicates a child, like trying to understand the thoughts of a child, trying to help them, trying to like follow them along like in their like journey, like trying to understand what they're thinking and stuff like that. Like it's basically replicating the thought process of a child, in my opinion.
Well, it's replicating thought process of a child in the way that like an adult would replicate the thought process of a child, like a human adult.
Explain that. I'm lost.
Like it's not really somebody makes an immature decision doesn't mean that they're not mature, if that makes sense.
Okay, true, but like, is she ever portrayed as mature? And
Yeah, I think she's a little
Yeah,
bit
frequently, I think. She just doesn't play by what do they call polite,
polite society.
polite society norms. Yeah.
I mean, okay, so when is she portrayed as mature? Like genuinely curious, because like, well, like obviously, like so Bella to I guess the person watching the movie she is what she's portrayed as in the movie. So like you can't really assume anything different from what I at least I see. So what did you I guess see or some examples maybe of like her being mature? If you have any on the spot, I know that's a tough question. I wouldn't have been able to answer that.
She is like enrolled in college while she's making money as a prostitute. So she's using that money to do her research and do the things that she loves as a surgeon as well. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
That's smart, but that's not necessarily emotional maturity. I more so mean emotional maturity. I'm sorry.
I feel like it is emotional maturity though, because that's her passion, researching that kind of stuff.
Okay. I guess yeah, you could probably argue that. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
But I think in general, whenever Lanthimos uses sex scenes, they never really like feel sexual, if that makes sense. Like obviously they are having sex, but like there's almost always a meaning behind it.
I
Like he's not,
definitely agree with that. Yeah.
yeah, like he's not what most modern directors just like throw in a meaningless sex scene to engage the audience. And they are excessive in poor things, like Carter was saying. 80% of them definitely not needed. But I think they do definitely get their point across.
I agree with that, and I definitely agree that yeah, the sex scenes definitely don't feel sexual, but it's still a sex scene, and it's still like
Still
showing the
excessive, yeah.
pedophilia in my opinion, the pedophilia. I don't know if it's an opinion, but I feel probably, I guess, in my opinion, the pedophilia, it's still showing it, and it's still using humor to almost, also in my opinion, maybe cover it up a little bit. Maybe not on purpose, but like you can't just slap humor on something that's as heavy as that kind of topic, you know. There's some things
That's
that you could argue like stand-up comedians use heavy things like suicide and stuff like that, but it's a different way of using it. It's not when they do that, it doesn't feel like they're covering up the heavy theme of suicide or something heavy like that. It's just very distracting. It was like it was trying to distract real quick of this like insane thing that's going on, which maybe that was the point and there was a reason for it, but I did not quite get it.
understandable.
yeah,
And just
yeah.
to throw it out there, there's like it's crazy to try to defend what you're saying, Will, because I'm not going to, because there is
Right.
none.
Right.
It's just a matter of disagreement, just to clarify things.
Yeah,
That
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I'm like
definitely.
it's because even compared to suicide, like pedophilia, like suicide is nothing compared to pedophilia. Like
Kinda,
you
yeah.
can joke about that, but you can't joke about pedophilia. It's not
Yeah,
something to be
yeah,
taken lightly at all. It's something it's the worst of the worst.
yeah.
And I just I don't see this movie as being about a child. I see it about as being about Emma Stone as this Frankenstein's monster of a character discovers more and more about the world and more about herself. You can argue the emotional maturity, I guess, but I think her learning from things and as she meets the various people along her journey, in my opinion, kind of deflects that. Except for Emma Stone's character, everyone is staunchly portrayed in black and white, good and evil kind of dynamics, I
Hmm.
think. I don't think there's any question about that. I think one thing is that people can go from and I mean, in this movie, people do go from black to white and white to black. I think Willem Dafoe's character is the biggest
Yeah,
one of that. I think he
definitely.
he talks about his father and how he defends his father's actions at first, but then he's like,
Right.
toward the end, he wants to be a better father. He wants to be a good father to Bella and also to what's her name?
The new one.
The yes,
The new
the
one.
new monster he created,
Bella 2.
2.0. She has an actual name, but yeah, I don't remember it.
Yeah.
But I think if you the a big thing that also might have been overlooked is if he wants to be a better father, maybe don't make another one because it's psychotic. Because I
mhm.
definitely agree with that, like he was definitely like one of the main characters going back and forth. I definitely that's very extremely real and yeah, as they say, um but what I think wasn't it was similar with his her husband, I guess. Bubbles, not Bubbles.
Candles.
Chuckles, Candles,
Yeah.
Candles. Um so it was similar with the husband as the times that he was shown in a darker light, like, oh yeah. By the way, like this is messed up. We know that. It was like not enough. Like it was like at the end he almost tried to have a redemption arc. Okay. And okay, so it was that's a big thing. It was a redemption arc.
I'm
This
gonna
is
get to the
hard.
I'm gonna get to
This
the
is hard
do
to
you mean to
say.
jump in real quick and say my thoughts on the husband?
Possibly.
I've been kind of brewing him. So I'm
Okay, yeah, wait, in a sec.
so
Sorry,
yeah,
sorry.
sorry, go
But
ahead. No, I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead, sorry.
okay, so it was it was a redemption arc for especially espe- es- especially the two Chuckles and God. Um it I thought it was or almost at least almost trying to be a redemption arc for them too when this might be a controversial take but almost like they don't deserve a redemption arc. Um and it was a redemption arc for them to who it was yeah, and they who placed her in that position in the first place, and they were almost trying to redeem themselves in her mind at some point. They were like asking for forgiveness when that's like that's just not how that works. Like you can't. The movie at the end at least started to like when she came home
Hmm.
and God was dying. It even though like the movie did acknowledge, I feel like that he was kind of a crazy person. It was almost somewhat trying to justify it. Not quite. It wasn't trying to justify it, but it was a little bit trying to justify it as like through his father like abusing him to death, which is like terrible. But as we know, you can't just bring that upon somebody else, because that's just as
Yeah.
terrible. But but it was almost trying to justify that, and then it almost had too much of a redemption arc for him. Like he was all of a sudden like maybe trying to be a good father or trying to be at least back in her life when maybe controversial, but like when he doesn't deserve it. Like he just doesn't. Like you can't just do something like that and then get back into somebody's life for for Bella's sake. If he wanted to be a good maybe father, I feel like the best thing for Bella maybe that he could have done if this was a real situation was just not contact her ever again because of the horrid things that he has like set upon her. And it also talked about how,
All right. Yeah.
oh, if I didn't do this, Bella wouldn't exist, which is true. But what it didn't bring up, maybe it did, I don't really remember, but what it did bring up is that this child was still alive and he could have just birthed the child. He could like he was a doctor. He could have just like raised the child itself, but he
I don't
decided
know.
to.
The child was in so
like the child
to
was dead, but there was brain
the
activity
child
kind of
was
thing.
dead, yes.
Okay,
So
okay,
to
okay.
the opening scene is a shot of Emma Stone's character on the bridge. Emma Stone's
Right, right.
not her and not Bella Baxter, but Victoria,
Yeah.
whatever her name is.
Mm.
Yes.
She is pregnant and she jumps off the bridge and she kills herself and her child.
Hmm.
And Willem
Okay,
Dafoe
okay.
finds the corpse and he finds a live body, dead brain,
Hmm.
live
Hmm.
brain, dead body, and he puts them
Okay,
together.
okay. That
And
does
he
make sense.
so and he brings him back to life. And he says, it was a cruel. I don't forget what he says. It was something thing to do. He says, but would you rather the world not have Bella?
Right,
Yeah,
which was like a crazy. It's yes, but
Yeah. And
that's
so
a weird thing.
I'm
But
gonna
yeah,
I would say he is a good father because of what he does in the end. I think his redemption arc is, and I'm going to talk about the husband in a second. I think it's Willem
mm,
Dafoe's Godwin Baxter, who they call God. His redemption arc is perfectly earned and deserved because I don't think he does anything bad to Bella in the film at all, except
except
except arguably bringing her to life. I don't know. There's debate there whether or not he should or should not have done
I
that.
mean, he didn't
But
tell her that.
yeah, but he breaks the cycle of what his father did. He doesn't do anything to Bella. He just raises her like a daughter.
this is also possibly an opinion
Yeah.
because of the thoughts of age, but in my opinion, encourages pedophilia and encourages the
I think that's a wild thing to say, all
I
due
don't
respect.
I think that he encourages Chuckles to marry his creation Bella, who is a child in my opinion.
He
And
does encourage her
he he
him to
he like
marry
he
her,
was
but like
like and
she's
it was
mentally
it
like
was
20 and her
uh
body's like
maybe
30
later.
something.
But remember the first at the beginning, he also wanted to marry her, and that's what I was talking about when God was still like on the edge almost. You weren't quite sure if like God was like an okay character yet. Maybe even you thought he was bad,
But
and
no,
it seemed as though they were
but
portraying him as bad because he was like very into the like overly into the thought of the second doctor, his helper, marrying Bella, who at the time was simply just there to examine her and like manage her or record her brain activity, I suppose.
yeah, but did you say that Defoe's character wanted to marry Bella? Because that never
No, no,
happened.
no, no. I
But
was
I
saying
know
he
what you
was
mean. I know what you mean. But
encouraging.
so
Yeah, yeah.
yes, it's
No.
like encouraging
Oh,
pedophilia.
oh.
Yeah, sure. In the way that like Victorian England encouraged 15-year-old girls to get married. Yes, I think so.
But
Yeah,
he
a
also
very, very,
he.
very, 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 very bad thing. Okay,
But
but
okay, but
to the
he didn't want to marry Bella, or he didn't try to marry Bella or do anything, but it was brought up when the doctor said he was like, is she for your like sexual pleasure or something like that? And he says like something along the lines of like no, because once I started like seeing the stuff, it was like all that was gone. It was like he felt as though like a father rather than like someone with romantic interest, which is a good thing. But if you think about it, it's also like he brought her to life, like not completely convinced. It was implied that he brought her to life, like not completely convinced of
it's not implied that
not
he it's
doing
not no
anything.
it's not implied that he brought her to life in order to marry her and to whatever
No, no,
with her.
no, no, no,
It's not.
definitely
It's
not
implied. All
implied
right, hold on,
that.
hold on. Will. It's
But
not
he was
implied. It will.
unsure.
Will. Hold on. It's not implied.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
got a minute left. Sorry. It's not implied he brought her to
Okay.
life to make her his mistress. It is implied he brought her to
Yeah.
life in the name of science, and then he became a father to
Hmm.
her. And so, since Candles
Yeah.
asks him if he has any feelings toward her, he says no, because I'm her
Hmm.
father. None of that
Hmm.
is real. None of that has any. None of those feelings took hold of me because I'm her father. It has no potential because became her father instead of her husband. So
Yeah.
that was that.
Wasn't my intentional first round draft pick show up time on Monkey Business Podcast because it's a very serious one, and I'm very We're into it, but you know what? We're pulling through, and the funny jokes will come after this podcast.
Very, very sorry if this is your first one.
No, don't be sorry.
We
No, it's
we had
good because it's like it sets a baseline. Like I'm not completely stupid.
yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, dude, not at all. But it also sets a baseline as it can only get better from here, right, Will?
Exactly.
So when we do hot summer nights in 5 years, it'll be a fun time.
Maybe.
Uh-huh.
We'll see. Hey, at
Maybe
least
five
won't
and
we
a
just
half.
be arguing about women for 8 minutes,
Yeah.
hours. Okay, let's argue about women
Speaking
more.
of women. Okay. So it's very much Victorian England culture to give your daughters away when they're 15, 16 in marriage because it's all political. It's all, he's like, "Oh, this guy is very smart, a doctor, a good student. Hey, do you want to marry my daughter?" This is when he is a bad father. This is
Okay.
a very, very bad thing, and the movie shows it in this light because the next scene isn't them getting married. It's them drawing up a contract. It's him
Yeah.
giving her away as property, essentially. And she
Right.
Yeah.
takes agency of her life and says, "I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to Lisbon, and then I'm going to explore the world. And then I'll come back and then I'll marry you probably, right?" That's what she says. That's what she does. One thing to negate the pedo allegations again. So Candles is brought in to study her and study her development, and as she grows and as her mind changes and learns new things. And then it's suggested that he should marry her. It's not necessarily implied that he is into her. Willem Dafoe's character of God is just tells Candles, he's like, "Yeah, I know love when I see it." And then he's like, "Have you ever been in love?" And then he goes on this rant about how much electricity it would take for his body to, you know, develop a feeling of love.
Get
It's enough to
rocked
power
up.
North London. And so it's initially like, what the heck does this guy know, right?
Okay.
It does seem like on the surface that this is a nasty movie. I get, but I think it's very, very condemning of these things. That's Candles and Bella in the black and white early scenes.
Okay.
Bella goes on a whole journey, comes back 20 years older, essentially, and a completely new person, knowing all the things that she does. Max in this time is pretty much a new person too, and he doesn't see her as in the way that she was because she isn't. They are new people and they see each other as new people. And then this time, they do kind of, start to fall in love with each other and they get together. And that's why it's kind of a happy ending because they've both grown and developed as people, become good people. By the end of it, also, God definitely becomes a good father instead of someone who's just science crazed and admires his father and how science crazed he was. He understands the importance of human life and human agency and not just drilling forward in the name of progress. Again, you can never like I know I'm gonna get like Mr. Cord is gonna light me up because he is very I'm not trying to be
Almost like
too
he's older
I'm
than
not
us or
I'm not
something,
sure yeah
calling him Mr.
I'm not
Cord.
trying to be too hard on him, but he's very cherry picking when it comes to information and he's not gonna hear what I say. He's just gonna hear pedophilia. What the heck is he watching? And
Okay, it's true.
I'm
It's
never gonna
true.
live down the fact that
Yeah,
I saw this
that's
movie.
true.
Literally, like as soon as I stepped
It's
in the
true.
theater, I'm never gonna live it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think this movie is very judgmental of those things um
Yeah,
to a
I agree with that.
to an extreme degree. And
I
I
think
think it
there's
needs 80% less sex, but
mm,
I don't think it ever ventures into pedophilia.
I think that there's a lot of social commentary in it that I don't agree with all of it, but I think it's something people should be aware of. But I think the scene where like the kids are watching, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Um, I feel like that I took at least I took that as a commentary on how we're bringing kids up and we're teaching them about sex and having them and judging them for it if they don't know about it instead of just letting them be kids.
I think
that's
that's
kind of
exactly true. It's here's how I live, here's how you're gonna live too. And
mhm.
that's kind of present throughout the movie. I mean, I talked about Lanthimos and his maybe views on fatherhood in Killing of a Sacred Deer, and I think that um, there's not a lot of men in the favorite, but it carries over into Poor Things and his view of fatherhood and how he shows bad fathers and how he shows good fathers, and how he shows bad fathers grow into good fathers.
I think I mostly agree with that. I mean, I'm hearing what you're saying,
Hmm.
but
But I
but
get it, dude.
I'm still with the pedophilia thing, of course. But
It like how you feel is how you feel. I'm not gonna
right,
judge you at all for walking out of this. I'm not gonna judge you at all for staying as far away
right.
from this as you can.
I
Yeah.
didn't walk out of it actually.
I know, I know. I'm
But
referring
I
to
was
other people.
close. But yeah,
I
right.
gotcha, I gotcha. There's just times you've got to look to the side and then you can look back and then you can enjoy the dancing scenes and the scenes where
Right.
she's eating like, dozens and dozens of little cake things. And the scene where, she says, "Oh, my father's gonna die soon," and then she says, "Oh, how marvelous,"
Yeah.
And the scenes where she uh stands up to her husband and then he gets shot because she overpowers him and then gets out of that situation on her own accord. And then she's
Mm,
like, I don't want to kill him. Let's turn him into a goat. Um,
right.
just quickly, I think on a technical level, it's awesome. I talked about the cinematography. Just really, really wacky costumes. That's one thing I didn't talk about the favorite with the favorite. I know I'm going back to the favorite again, I'm sorry. But the favorite has some of the best costume design I have ever seen in my life. Dude, they're so drippy in that, for real, for real. And like
For real, for
and
real.
and and Black Panther beat them for the Oscar for costume design, and that's just atrocious.
Oh, that is rough.
Atrocious. It's sad. It's like how can you look at Rachel Weisz with her hat and her pants and her pistol and say that like anyone in Black Panther is swagging out more than her? Like, come on, be real.
Black Panther's fits could have been so good, but
It's just
Yeah.
CGI dissolving
they
suit.
were mostly, yeah, just CGI long suits.
And there is some very good costume design in Black Panther. I'm not
There,
gonna knock it,
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
but
but I don't know. This is random, but yeah, but Black Panther as a movie, man. Like everything was like pretty good, but like the reason that Black Panther is low key like insane is because of the music, but like because of Ludwig Göransson. Like the soundtrack was good, or not. The soundtrack was amazing. The music made for the movie by
mhm,
Kendrick and all that stuff says
yeah.
it and everybody pretty good. Like it was good stuff, but like the soundtrack is insane. Even Black Panther 2 just carried by the music. It's so good. Like the soundtrack, the score, I
Mhm.
guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I got you, Pete.
Anyways,
Yeah,
all
I
right, sorry.
no, all good.
God.
Yeah, the first Black I quite like the first Black Panther. I think the music is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I have so much beef with the second Black Panther, and I'm not going to talk about that at all. But
I also have so much beef with the second Black Panther, but the music was still
I think
insane. I
even
wouldn't
the
lie.
music is not it's not as good as the first, and I think it's used so like the way it's used
Probably
is
used
actually
poorly,
kind of
yes.
disgraceful, yeah, in certain parts.
Fair. Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
moving on,
Mhm.
cut off from that. The
Yeah, got
costume
off from
designs in
that.
Poor Things it's great. Someone comes up to her and asks her something, and she says, "I don't know, you strange feathered lady," to a
Yeah,
woman
that
like
was funny.
wearing like a scarf or something. It's great.
The costumes was good. I thought the world was cool. Like it was like I was lost at first, but then somebody was like it's like cyberpunk and it's like steampunk, I think is what it was called. Like
Hmm.
1800s, but like futuristic, but like not futuristic, I guess. I don't know.
Hmm.
So like
Yeah, it's
there
very
was like
steampunk.
flying things and stuff in the air and in the sky, and then there was like certain things that are super futuristic and certain things are not. Thought that was pretty cool. I think I think it worked with the movie pretty well for sure, especially with like the advancement of science, like like that. But the advancement of science like made sense because it was like okay, like people are doing crazy stuff in other places in the world. Um, one thing I don't was actually like the music. I thought in this it's a
It
hard
was one
decision
one of the
because
better parts of it.
I
I think
loved
so. I think
I loved music. It was
yeah,
so great with the
it's
weird little violin stuff, and then they're playing the harp at times. So good.
right.
There's like
I
there's the dance scene, which is like they play this like ear bleeding song and they dance to
yeah,
it. But like after
right.
like 5 seconds, it kind of works. It's so
Yeah.
strange. It's so great.
Yeah, so that's
Mhm.
like music for me in a movie is basically 75%, which is absurd, but like it really is because I just completely am focused on the music.
That's cool.
And that's one of the reasons why Hot Summer Nights is like basically my favorite movie. But um and it's also like you were saying Black Panthers the way they use the specific music too. So music in this like it's like hard to break in, but like it really was like great. Like just for the movie itself, like everything about the music just worked perfectly and they used it really well. And even though the music was theoretically awful, it was like on purpose and it was used incredibly well. But it was like also like you said with the dancing, like it just like it's almost like the scene would like start out and you would be somewhat focused on how bad the music was. And then as the scene progressed, it would start to blend in on purpose because it would like start out like a little bit off-putting and then it would go and go and then on purpose it would like become more in flow with the environment. And then you would like not be paying attention to the music
Mhm.
almost at all because it was like almost working really well with the scene that was occurring. And I thought that was pretty, it was really good. It was really good. And all the different like wild instruments and just the completely out of tune violin, like all the time
Yep.
was just so like it could have been so annoying, but it wasn't, which is pretty impressive, I guess. But it also wasn't like it's not like it was like just like an out of tune violin in a horror movie where it's like just a little sketchy and you start to get on your toes. It was just there was just something about it that was just like off, but it wasn't like scary or thrillery, you know?
It's just such a jarring experience. Not just with the what the substance of the film, what it covers, just of the aesthetic of the film.
Yeah.
It's just wild, it's just out there. And Yorgos Lanthimos just like with all of his films, he just pretty much just asks the question like, why do stories have to take place in regular, normal locations? Why can't I just drop you into a world that I created without explanation?
Right,
And he
right.
says there's no reason why
Mhm.
not. So he does. That's what he does. And that's what I wanted to come all the way back when we were talking about Dogtooth. I think this is what he really wanted Dogtooth to be. But Dogtooth is obviously a very small movie, very small budget, and he was much younger then, and he's
Yeah.
learned and matured and progressed since then. So he's gotten better. And this is just it just wipes the floor with Dogtooth, obviously.
Mm.
And
It
it
really
just
does. Yeah.
yeah, all of the themes that tries to tackle, this just excels at tackling, and it just does it very well. And is it perfect? No, it's not perfect at all. It stumbles in places. It's just not accessible to the average moviegoer, and that's okay to be sometimes. And it's okay to not like that, and it's okay to like that. You can't just make blanket statements, I think. And I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying there's been plenty of
Right.
criticism about this movie, but there's been plenty of praise about this movie,
A
calling it
lot, yeah.
Mhm.
untouchable, and I don't think it's that, and I don't think it's a bad and disastrous and evil and immoral either. Um it's gotten comparisons to Barbie, and I think in the way that Barbie explores great sides of feminism through the
Yeah.
not great sides of corporatism
Right.
and
Mhm.
being watered down via the modern day blockbuster. I think
Yeah.
Poor Things explores the great things of feminism through the not great things of thinking sex is funny, first and foremost, and desire to be weird for weird's sake view of European art house cinema, maybe.
Gotcha.
They're both with their flaws, and they're both shooting for the stars, and they're both great movies, I think. And um,
They both are great movies.
they both are great movies. They both have just absolutely banger lead performances, some really, really amazing
Great.
supporting
Amazing supporting
performances.
performance.
Yep, yep. and funny all the way through. Great
I
production
really,
design.
I really hope Mark Ruffalo gets nominated. I don't think he'll win, but I hope he gets
I
nominated.
don't think he'll win, but I'm really hoping he gets nominated too. Yeah.
I wha the are those two dudes in it who I like noticed, and they were the dudes in they had very small parts, except actually the one dude was the husband of the pregnant
Of the
lady.
original woman, yes.
Yeah. And then the other dude in I don't remember the name of the movie, but I just watched it recently. But so the husband who okay, so you know what I'm talking about, the husband of the original lady. He
Yeah.
was in the movie On the Count of Three. Fire, dude. And I'm not even gonna lie. So everyone in this movie, like, I thought it was like as much as you could say this is a great movie, I personally cannot say that this is a great movie at all because I think almost solely of the fact that I don't think that it might be wild to say. I don't think it was needed to be made. I think it shouldn't have been made, personally. I personally think it shouldn't have been made. I think you can make something similar and something way more, maybe not way more powerful, maybe just as powerful, maybe just as telling like a story or like telling like or like making a difference or something, and not be like, in my opinion, borderline perverted and pedophilic. Like, I know that it's a take and people have different takes, but that's just my opinion on it. But so like them two dudes being in this movie, like, almost made me like sad. I was like, dang, like, because crazy sad, I know, but like everyone in this movie, like each of those actors, I was like, why would you sign up for this? I know that even if they killed it, even if like it's in my opinion, I don't think that this movie should have been made, and I don't think that if I mean, if I was, this is also like a wild statement, but if I was an actor and I heard this like pitch, like, I'd be like, this is absurd. Like, I don't want to be near any of this, because of how just kind of, in my opinion, a little bit gross it is. Not just like the sex, but I just mean more so the pedophilia, which is also debatable, like you're saying, but I don't know. The pedophilia, the rape culture kind of thing, which um is made, not made fun of, but like looked down upon in the movie, I assume. But I suppose but still, I don't think enough. It was looked down upon enough, maybe. And but anyways, On the Count of Three, incredible movie. And the dude who was the husband of the original Bella lady, I thought he killed it in the movie. To be honest, I thought he did great. He's a pretty good actor, maybe. I don't know. I've only seen him in two movies, but I don't know. I just thought for the actor's sake, like, as much as Mark Ruffalo just absolutely like was an incredible actor in this, I thought that you can't salvage that. You can It sounds crazy, but like I don't think you can just make a movie like that and be like, yeah, that was fine. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's my opinion.
That's cool. And that's it's again, that's what I said. It's how you feel. It's you feel how you feel, and you're gonna feel how you feel. Um, I think I want to say and want to make clear that this is like almost just as much Emma Stone's movie as it is Yorgos Lanthimos' movie. So
Fair
it's
enough, yeah.
Emma Stone as the actress has just been championing this like for a
Hmm.
long time. It's the book that she wanted to adapt. She's the
Hmm.
executive producer on it, and she's was charging forward with this story and the desire to tell this story. So
Hmm.
it's very much on her and her decision too. Um, whether or not you agree with it. It is very much trying to make you uncomfortable. It's trying to push
Yeah,
things to the limits, and it's
right.
going to see who's going to break, and it's going to break some people, and it's not going to break some other people. It's probably going to break a lot more people than it isn't going to break. And there will be people, there have been people since the beginning of time, there will be people to the end of time fighting back against movies with the excuse that this never should have been made, this never should have been made. And there are movies like that. And that's at times a decent and valid criticism.
I think
But it's
I think
yeah.
that usually every movie needs to be made to a certain extent, obviously, but I think it's more just like just every movie needs to be made, and if you don't want to watch it, you don't have to watch it.
Uh,
Mhm.
hot
I'm
take.
I'm I don't know if I
Obviously,
can
to a certain extent, obviously it
yeah,
depends.
yeah. I don't know if
Yeah.
I can't say that as a blanket statement, but I very much lean towards that opinion, Joseph. Just
Yeah.
because I mean there are, like obviously like the Nazis made films during World War II and they did certain things and like those movies should have been made. D.W. Griffith made movies about the KKK and those should not have been made. And there's like are we gonna look back at this in 50 years and view it as one of those movies, or are we gonna look back at it in 50 years and view it as something like trying to think about something to not
Right,
get
like
me
some
in
like big societal
trouble?
impact kind of. Right,
Yeah,
no, I get you.
like
Yeah.
Bonnie and Clyde. Are we gonna look at like Bonnie and Clyde? Or like The Last Temptation of
Right.
Christ, which is still a controversial movie to this day, so I won't talk about that. But like Bonnie and Clyde, it was just trashed by people because it was extremely violent. But
Yeah.
you watch it today and it's really not compared to like
Yeah.
your average Netflix movie, really. But it showed blood and it showed that when people got shot, they bled and they
Right.
flailed around and they died. And it's like, should you abide by the Hays Code and just show shot reverse shot of someone firing a gun and then someone turning around and falling down real quick and then,
Hmm.
selling that to audiences and having them eat it up? Or should you say, hey, this is violence. This is what happens when, people fire guns at each other.
And kind of make them aware of the fact that this is what happens when violence happens. People
Exactly.
die.
Film is awareness, and film is first and foremost about empathy, and second most, I think, about awareness. And it's just you can learn so much from it. Did we learn that much from this? Decent amount. It's not going to be as impactful as some like, one of the greatest movies of all time, but I don't think it takes as many missteps as people are. I don't think it takes as many missteps as people have been and are going to be saying that it did.
Yeah. I as much as I understand, and I respect that opinion, but I don't know. I'm honestly probably more so on the side of not every movie has to be made. Like movies like this, like depending on how much when like there's better b- with a heavy topic like pedophilia. In my opinion, I think if you're trying to bring
This doesn't
light
really have a
to
heavy topic of pedophilia to it, though.
uh
Yeah,
debatably
I think a big split difference on this is that
a heavy
I see
topic.
it as an Emma Stone movie, not I see it as a movie about Emma Stone, not as a movie about a child, and you see it as a movie about a child, not Emma Stone. So it's hard. And look,
Okay.
I know that you're saying that you understand my opinion. I trust me, I understand
Yeah.
yours too, and I think it's fair. I think it's valid. I'm not
Mhm.
negating your feelings in any way. I'm not
Mm,
negating your disdain for this film. I think
right.
that's fair. I'm just on the other end of it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think that I just like yeah, it's definitely opinion too. It's my opinion that this film has a lot of pedophilic and rape themes. Um, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Um, but
I don't think there's any
I don't. There's
rape
not
in
any
the
like.
movie.
I think I don't think there's yeah, actually I disagree. I think there is a lot of because consent is not in existence with children basically, which is
She's not in the
why that
story.
would be.
Dog, it's just
Like her
okay.
brain is more advanced than like
No, but it's not portrayed as like he says at the beginning. I feel like the
when she's in the
only
prostitution place, it is portrayed. She is portrayed because that's when she's studying the.
Uh-huh. Every time she, you know, makes a business transaction, she ponders it and considers it and talks about it with people and tries to figure it out in a new different way. And it's just that she's just been holed up her whole life in, God's house, and so she's trying to figure out the world. like, it's just treating sex as a very nonchalant thing, which isn't totally correct,
I
but
think
We can
it
all agree
could.
it didn't need as much sex,
yeah,
but
Yes,
we've all
yes.
said
I
that,
think
yeah.
the treating sex, but the treating sex as a nonchalant thing isn't necessarily the bad part. I think it's that sex can be assumed as a nonchalant thing, sure, if that's your opinion, but it sex uh and traumatic events with children are different. Like that's all around the board. Like everyone knows, like sex and children is extremely wrong and traumatic and is not nonchalant at all. It's the complete opposite of nonchalant, you know.
Yeah,
Which
obviously
is
no,
why I was like,
obviously, like it's a no-brainer that
right,
there's no
but
disagreement there. But I
yes,
just
yes, but that's why it was like because it was like
it's just
treating
one of
sex
it's one of those things that it's trying really hard to make you uncomfortable in the beginning, and it
yeah,
succeeds, and then it's kind of just possibly perhaps that you kind of freeze at that point, and
fair, yeah.
you view the entire rest of the movie through that lens.
yeah, like you don't
Is it okay? But
Through
I
the
as soon
feel
lens
as you
of
like
the
hear that, you
first
don't
five
think that
minutes
her
where
brain
she's a
is
toddler in a child's body, and she's a toddler in a grown woman's body, and it's just very strange and off-putting even before there's any hint of sex. It's like,
I
what the
disagree.
heck is this horror movie,
I No, I disagree because sorry, that fumbled.
All good, all good.
I disagree because actually I talked to Ryan like this was like I think one of especially one of the most shocking, right?
Hmm.
It was the first time anything like sexual was shown or seen. It was still in their house and stuff like that, and she's like laying in bed. It was like she was I personally think that she was still very much being portrayed as a child, and then it shows her naked basically, um top, but like still like it shows her naked, and then like my reaction in the theater, like I cover my eyes because I was like whoa, like I like shocked, like it did not feel okay. And I think that, like you said, it's trying to make you feel uncomfortable. But I personally think that it was like, like literally the way it made you feel uncomfortable was not all right. It was like, here's a child in a woman's body. Okay, here's her naked. Like it was like, whoa, like that's not that's for me. I was like, this isn't walking the line to prove a point at the end. This is like way over the line. And then, you might be proving a point at the end, but you're not proving any point because you just killed your entire point by like screwing up real bad, you know? Like that was my opinion. That was my opinion.
I feel like when the time they say that she has the brain of a child is like there's like a good long like I don't know 10 or 20 minutes before they show her naked at all.
But okay, but like they said her brain is progressing rapidly fast, right? But is that the
Mhm.
only proof of her not being a child? Because first of all, that's not really proof because we don't know how fast he was really talking about. We also don't know the times in between, I don't think, in between each scene,
Hmm.
And in my opinion, throughout the movie, she was like acting in with the childlike emotional maturity. So that was for me, that was my brain's proof at least. Like, and in the theater I wasn't thinking about like, oh, I wasn't like thinking about, oh, how old is she now? How old is she now? It was like this was like my brain's like still like feeling like this is very much a child, which might have been, like you said, the uncomfortable shock at the beginning. But I felt as though it was all the way through with that uncomfortable shock as like she's still it's the way she's being portrayed is still feeling very childlike in her words. Not maybe not so much in her actions, but in her words and in the way she understands things and stuff like that. I don't know. Was there any other proof of her not or her growing up? I don't really remember
I
if
would
there
say
was.
it's just because it's something she's never experienced before.
She hasn't experienced much of anything
I
at
mean,
all,
it's clearly that she's messed up in the head. It's the reason she still like talks choppy when she's,
It's because she's not let out of the
30.
house being
After
a
she's been on this entire movie, toward the end of the movie, she's still saying goofy things and leaving out words. and not understanding social cues, you know?
Possibly, but then you could bring in the possible idea of, is that rape? I mean, that's a hard question, but
Is what rape?
How, Will? Like I don't
There's no.
get where you're coming from. Like it, man, like me and Joseph are really fighting the current here. I understand.
I know,
Because
I know
if
it's
you
hard to
haven't,
fight
no,
the.
I get you, Will. I think you're being a genius on this podcast, but I'm just trying to explain to people who haven't seen Poor Things who are listening to
Right,
this.
right, right, right. You definitely have
Because
to see it
because
before
the
you,
second
yeah.
you hear rape and pedophilia, your brain lights up and goes,
Oh,
"What
100%,
the heck
100%,
are
100%.
Carter and Joseph
Yes.
talking about?" And
Right,
I'm just here
fair,
to
yes.
say that I personally believe this movie has nothing to do with those topics, and that is
Right,
why I
right,
like it.
right. Yes,
Me
and I
too.
think that's fair.
Uh-huh.
That was a good
And
point
I
to bring up.
acknowledge
Yeah.
your opinion and you acknowledge mine, and I think we're being
Right.
very civil about this, and that's great. Again, like I said, it's a losing battle from the start because you're not the only person that's interpreted this, and it's not just you and Ryan that's interpreted it like
Hmm.
this, but
Hmm.
there's just many interpretations of this movie.
Hmm.
Some people say it's about autism. Some people say it's about other things.
Right.
There's plenty of ways to pick up on this, not just, feminism and whatever, or, not just
Right.
Frankenstein's monster type of thing. Ultimately, it just comes down to experiencing the world for all its terrible qualities
Right.
and
Mm.
finding good in
Finding good in the bad.
exactly,
Okay.
which is very possible and is exactly what they do at the end of this.
Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah.
Not fi
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
not just I know what you mean, Joseph. Not finding good in the
Hmm.
bad, finding the good and pulling it out of
Yeah.
Yeah.
not pulling it out of the
Not
bad.
not thinking bad things are good,
Finding
but
finding
finding
the things that are genuinely good and uncovering
mm,
those
In a bad
in
situation.
in
bad
a
circumstances.
world that, yeah, is bad.
Yeah.
Realizing that there is good in the world and you have to cling on to that.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough. I think that a thing that they did do well, here I'll compliment it,
Hmm.
other than I compliment the music. A thing that they did well, which it's usually I'm a big sucker for like good music used really well,
Hmm.
but this one was like I mean I'm still going on about the music, but this one was just absurd music used really well, and it was good. But okay, but anyways, what they did do really well was the dude in On the Count of Three, with that whole arc, I guess, at the end, like when he came back, that whole thing. I thought that was really great, and the way it was like super eerie, and it like set in slowly to her, and it was like, oh, like I wonder why she was driven insane. And it was like, oh, wow, this guy is insane. This is obviously why. And then it was like, wow. What I was saying is that the intentions of the husband and how it was portrayed was extremely different from the rest of the movie. I thought it wasn't necessarily the consequences. Okay, it wasn't like, oh, like he did bad thing, he got punished for it and got a consequence. Good movie, everyone's happy. It was like if he didn't get consequence, like obviously like it's not as satisfying of an ending probably, but it was the portrayal and the obviously shown how messed up that situation was and how terrible of dude he was.
Yeah,
And
so
it
what you're
was
saying,
like
so what you're saying is you liked how that was very overt and very clear.
very clear, and it got, because
Okay.
like it was
And
like
you don't
as
and you
as she's
and
realizing.
hold on. And you
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that the others weren't as overt and clear and it was more muddled and that's why you don't like it because it was morally muddled, right?
I
Okay,
thought that
I think okay,
there was a lot of things trying, not maybe not on purpose, but I thought it felt like it was on purpose, almost trying to distract from these really heavy themes, and trying to like make a little bit of humor out of some stuff. And I didn't like how like undercover these themes were, almost like if you didn't pay attention to the movie too hard, you wouldn't even have realized how messed up something is happening.
okay, I get that. But it's
Yeah.
not okay, but A, it's not the movie's it's not the job for the movie to cater to the lowest common denominator. If someone isn't paying attention at all and walks away thinking it's something that the movie doesn't portray at all, that's not the movie's fault. I think that goes for
Okay,
any
yeah.
movie ever. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that, to target you, I'm just saying that goes for any movie ever. And secondly, sorry I'm speaking fast. We're trying to get this out and get this done so we can
Fine.
go to bed. Um,
fine. I gotta go listen to
Second,
Camp.
okay. Secondly, I think, do you think there's anyone, a question for both of you, do you think there's anyone more evil than the husband of Victoria in the movie?
Yes.
Who?
Um.
No,
mm,
because Will, hold on.
Exactly. I would say no. I would say
yeah.
no.
Will,
Actually, yeah.
because
Yeah.
she
I think.
told him
Ah.
she told him that she's not the same person. She's way younger
Yeah.
than him mentally, and he was like,
Yeah.
he didn't accept that. He
Yeah.
wanted to
And
believe what he wanted to believe.
exactly. And their dinner table scene is some of the best dialogue in the movie. And then she's trying to like
I
she is
agree.
again inquisitive and trying to figure out things about the world and trying to figure
Yeah.
out about her past life in a
Yeah.
very honest and not a naive way, just out of curiosity and trying to learn about the world as, because
Yeah.
she's a scientist. And he
Okay.
is just
Yeah.
domineering and
Yeah.
controlling and just evil. And he's like, you're going to be here and you're going to live here and it's going to be all as it was and we're all going to be happy. She's like, happy as it was when I threw myself off a bridge,
Mhm.
Right.
And so he is the most evil character in the movie. He gets the most severe punishment in the movie. All of, like I said, although there are a lot of black and white, there's also some gray in the movie because there are characters that range from the worst of the worst to very bad to good guys. And everyone gets their respective punishment, I think. He is the worst. He gets the most overt and most unsubtle punishment. There are others that aren't as bad and don't get as bad of a punishment, I think.
Possibly.
That's just my
I
quick rebuttal to that. And
okay, yeah.
you got 30 seconds. Anything else?
Okay, yeah. I didn't even think about like who was the worst of the worst out of everyone because I don't know, I wasn't like ranking what they did. But if I had to say, if I had to really think about it, yes, I probably do agree he was probably the worst in the movie,
Mhm.
like morally. One of the dudes who I think got away scot-free and wasn't addressed was Chuckles. Um,
I
he
address Chuckles. I think Chuckles is
I
um
know,
yeah, go ahead.
I know. I personally think
I
that
said Chuckles. His name is Candle.
yeah,
Candles.
it's Candle. Um, I personally think that Chuckles like did some bad things and wasn't the greatest, and it was just like not acknowledged. So I think it wasn't necessarily. It's not necessarily like it's the if you have these insanely heavy themes, you have to acknowledge the evilness of them personally, which I
Yeah,
just don't think was done enough.
I don't
That's
think
that was my
anyone
opinion.
I don't think anyone in this movie was really truly good.
No. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I think all the evil was acknowledged just in varying degrees. And I think you've just got to see that some isn't as overt as others.
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly, yeah. Joseph,
Hmm.
any thoughts at all? Anything else?
Closing thoughts. Hopefully she gets the Oscar. I
Okay,
wouldn't be
solid.
mad if Lily Gladstone got it, but I think that Emma Stone deserves it.
I'm on the inverse of you. I would be psyched out of my mind if Emma Stone won it. I I personally think Lily Gladstone deserves it. Actually, I think Lily Gladstone is the second best performance of the year. I will talk about my favorite performance of the year in our end of the
I don't
year
even know who
podcast.
Lily Gladstone
So
is.
stay tuned, everyone.
From
But if
Twitter
Lily, I
Storm.
like Lily Gladstone is looking like she's gonna win it, and that's awesome because she is far and away the best part of that movie. She carried that movie.
Agreed. Agreed.
Wait, who's Lily Gladstone?
She is the lead actress in Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh, okay. I heard that was great. Okay. My closing thoughts. Basically, overall, my thought was that that even though this movie had a lot of really like incredible like movie-esque things, like the music used and the just the art and stuff like that, as in like the set and stuff like that. I do
Mhm.
not think in any way this is art. I think it's a harsh take, but I don't. Okay. I just think that overall, even though there you could almost see like a lot of the good and the bad maybe, but I think that this is evil. This is bad. Like I crazy hot take maybe, but I just there's nothing that can revive this movie for me almost. Like I don't think I could change my mind even after a couple of viewings. Okay, and
That's cool. Not a hot
last
take.
thing,
There are movies I feel the same way about that. I think that's valid. I think
right.
it's
Yeah,
important
Yeah.
that
it's a
I
valid
think it's actually
opinion.
wonderful that you are able to pick up on things like that and form
Fire.
thoughts and opinions around things certain ways like that. So
And
that's cool. It's
okay,
fire.
and watch on the count of three because actually I didn't bring this up, but incredible movie. And okay, it relates to this because not only are both actors in both movies who are
Mhm.
incredible actors, but on the count of three, extremely heavy subject, very funny. Okay, the heavy subject is addressed very well. You feel the weight of it, but you're also like extremely sympathetic, but you're also like it acknowledges the messed up things of some of the characters. It acknowledges like the messed up life. Like it's so it's oh my gosh, it's such a good movie. And in my opinion, like low key, like I don't even know how I didn't think of this, but like it acknowledges everything so well, and it deals with a heavy subject in like an incredible way. And in my opinion, this movie deals with a probably heavier subject in a pretty terrible way, in my opinion. My opinion. Boom, done.
Very cool.
Next.
What's your rating?
I feel like it's hard to rate because
Yeah.
if you're just rating it like as a movie, like I could say really some cool shots and stuff like that or whatever. So like it could be like 6 or 5 or like probably even higher. But like just from my thoughts on the movie, like I just can't rate it above a two, honestly, just because of how how I view the movie, how I see it. It's
And
just like I
that's
just
fair.
can't see it
You
as a good
disagree
movie.
with the
I
principle
almost
of how
can't
you
even,
viewed it. So
yes, I really can't rate it. I don't think it would be fair for me to rate it. Like because it's not a two movie-esque wise. Like there's so many like insanely crazy cool things I assume in this, you know? Okay.
Very
Rating
cool.
for Carter.
Definitely going to see the on the count of three. I've been meaning
Hmm.
to watch that for a while. I would say everything Will said about on the count of three, I would apply to the favorite. It deals with its subject matter in a crazy way. It's super hilarious. It's very dark. I cannot recommend that movie enough. I'm going to sing
Fire.
that movie's praises until the day I die. This one is also very good. I liked Poor Things. Very cool. Second best of his. It's got some issues, not what Will's talked about, but it's not perfect. I would give this a very strong 9 out of 10.
okay, and I would give this a 9 out of 10 as well. I think Lanthimos is at his best when he's doing comedy, in his dark way. I does have issues.
Mm.
It's not perfect, but yeah, the issues are not pedophilia though, in my opinion.
It's honestly it's worth watching twice. I saw it twice. Joseph, you saw it twice. I'm glad you're able to.
Yeah.
I noticed so many things on the second watch that I was able to. A lot of
I
subtleties
also
in
think
Emma performance.
Yeah, on the second watch, I really didn't feel the runtime like at all.
It moves really fast. It's very entertaining. It
I
references
didn't feel the
Vertigo multiple times. Very cool. I like that. Um, Good stuff.
I didn't feel the runtime the first time, to be honest. But
Okay.
Yeah.
which is impressive, I guess. But okay, what was I gonna say? What was I gonna say? I don't know. I forgot. But Ballin swaggin, I guess. Oh yeah. If you I guess listen to this podcast, then I would say you should watch the movie because it's a wild thing to just to just hear all this stuff and then be like, wow. Anyways, but uh um yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
tough. Like
Yeah.
Watch the
would I
movie for
recommend
yourself. Don't
this?
just go off our opinions.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Form your own opinion, just like Will did, just like Ryan
right.
did,
Yeah,
just like
yeah,
me and Joseph
exactly. Yeah,
did. It's a
form your
great
own
thing to
opinion.
do,
That's
and
what I
you
was trying
should.
to say. Yeah, thank you,
That's
Joseph.
cool.
Yeah.
Would I recommend this movie? I don't know. Not to everyone. I can tell you that.
No, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's a very certain type of movie, and it's trying. It's very try hard in that it's trying to filter out who's going to enjoy it. It wants
Mhm.
you to walk out. So it's
Yeah.
like, but I do think it's just absolutely phenomenal in some aspects.
In middle school, we would call that a try hard.
Yeah, I think people are either gonna love it or they're gonna hate it.
Will,
Falling and swagging out.
so ballin' and swagging that you came
Ballin'
on
at
the
no cost.
podcast.
Thanks, King.
Thanks for making it. Thanks for your input. It was
Of
incredible
course.
and
I can't
appreciated.
wait for hot summer nights
Hot summer
because they're
nights.
hot.
Well,
Maybe we can do hot summer nights on a hot summer night because it's not like it's going to be filmed anytime soon.
That's true. You know,
that's what we said last.
summer.
That's what we said last July. So we'll see.
Okay. And I want Joseph on hot summer nights as well because he's very like
He gonna be there. Don't worry.
swag. Like I feel like he could
I'm
get
gonna be there.
the I don't know if you've seen it yet, but you could get like the feeling and like the tones and the ballness of it, even if it's like not the greatest movie. I
Yeah,
don't really know.
we've
I
all
have
seen it.
seen it, but
Oh, really?
Yeah, the
I'm probably
problem
gonna
is that
rewatch it before we
it's just
record.
no one wants to record a podcast. That's why me and
Okay, I
Joseph are
understand.
here recording podcasts.
Dude,
So,
carrying the Monkey Business
yeah,
podcast for real.
yeah. And so, yeah, thank you to Joseph for jumping on with me.
Hard thank
This
you
was
Of
so
course.
to
awesome.
Joseph,
This was an
maybe the
absolute
newest member.
blast. Oh yeah, he's our fourth monkey, bro. He's fourth monkey.
I'm the
Oh,
fourth monkey, guys.
He's so like
crazy.
like law firms. There's
No.
partners and there's like founders. So Joseph ain't a founder. We're the three founders, but
I made
Yeah,
Joseph
it's
partner.
like
I made
has
partner.
made
it's like
partner, bro. It's official.
it's freaking Science and Kirk and Lawrence or whatever their names
Yeah.
are, and then
If
there's
you have a
Joseph
phone
Cobb.
or a computer, you have a podcast.
That's it. Yeah. Don't
Uh,
listen to this one.
yeah. Thanks for listening. Very appreciated. Sorry if this was wild.
It was.
Know that we're all going to be friends. I can't speak for Will
We're all
Court, but
very good friends.
me, Ryan, Joseph, Will, and Warren
Hey man,
are all
there's
big
a new
fans of each
Will in
other.
town. I don't know what to tell you. There's not enough room in this town for the two of us because he has large pecs, as they say. I don't know if that's allowed on the Monkey Business
Yeah, we gotta
podcast.
keep
I'm
all of
sorry.
that in.
Okay.
Coming up next. Coming up next, guys, we're gonna
Will's
do our
tits.
man. If I can rank them up, we're gonna do our best movies of the year. I really
Oh
want
yeah.
to do that. They Warren had interest in doing that, so I know Will does too. I just haven't seen it for a bit. In the
Other
future,
Will.
who knows what we're gonna see in the next couple months, but we're gonna try to do After Sun podcast. Joseph really wants to do that. I really want to do that. Warren really wants to do that. Hopefully, we're gonna do that sooner than later, maybe within the next month. After that, text us, call us, email us, tell us in person. Let us know. Do you want a Kung Fu Panda ranking?
Yeah.
Do you want a
Tier
um?
list. Go give it a tier
Do you
list.
want a Mad Max ranking? Because Fury Road is going to come out, so there's 5 of them now.
We
And do
could do
you
the
want
before trilogy.
Ooh.
that's a possibility. Do you want a Planet of the Apes ranking?
Yeah.
Whether or not you want it, I'm going to do it. If I have to do it alone, I will do it. At least I'm going to do 4 of them. I may do all 9 or 10, whatever there is, but I'm going to
There's
talk to
9 or
people about
10
that.
movies.
Are you
Yeah,
gonna do
all
your
ones.
Scorsese ranking?
Oh, the
The
old
Scorsese
ones, yeah.
ranking, the Scorsese ranking is in progress. I'm trying to edit it. It's
Oh,
very
shoot, it's already
hard to
recorded.
mostly yes. It's despite like what you may think, it's harder
All my
to record
rage.
a podcast on your own than it is to
Rat in a
record with other
cage.
people because
Yeah.
Oh
I
yeah.
I don't want it to be absolutely abysmal, bro. Just me talking into the mic for
God.
nonstop. So I'm doing what I can to make that an entertaining episode, and that'll be out.
He's doing the most.
That'll be out by the end of January. It should have been out in October, but it'll be out by the end of January. You got my word there.
This man's got a deadline.
Yeah, I got a
I'll
deadline
listen
now.
to it. I'll listen to it.
Me too.
Awesome, cool. All right. Anything else to say?
Um. Uh.
You don't got anything else to say. Just anything else to say?
Yeah. No, I'm good.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah,
We'll
what
see you
about my
next time.
plugs? What about my plugs?
What you
Can
gonna
I
plug?
plug?
Well, plug your
Can I-
skating Instagram.
Plug Tuck and Roll Kitty. We don't have anything on social media or Spotify or anything, but we're existing.
When's the tour?
It's at least 2026, at least.
You order
I'm
your
gonna
tickets?
plug the Smashing Pumpkins. I'm the 4th guitarist that was just added. I don't know if you guys heard about the drama, but they dropped the last one and I got hired. Sorry to break it to you. All the OGs are still in. Don't worry about Mr. Lasergun guy. He's really cool still. Um, Billy Corrigan for life, dog. Yeah, and Billy Gibbons. I like Billies. I'm a Billy, as they say, but not really. Silly, really, Billy, all that kind of stuff. Peace out, home slices.
All right.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe for more. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify.
Rate me out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rank our
Bye.
voices.
Rank our voices.
Yeah.
Tier list, tier
monkey
list.
monkey voice tier list. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Who's got the worst voice? I'll put that as a poll.
Warren's in like the sexy tier. Will's just in the dungeon tier.
Dungeon.
You guys are the best. Thanks for coming on. Until next
Thanks,
time,
gang.
Appreciate you for having us on.
anytime, bro. It'll happen more and more frequently, hopefully. Until next time, everyone, we are the monkeys, and talking about movies is our business.
Maybe.
Happy to have you. See you around.
The home jerseys.